It's football season, and that means it's bug season. Heck, who am I kidding? It's always bug season in Texas. And that's why you need Grandeur Pest Solutions in your corner. They're locally owned and operated. They're trained, they're trustworthy, and they have a proven record as they have been in business for almost 10 years. They provide pest control against ants, bed bugs, bees, roaches, fleas, wasps, mosquitoes, rodents, spiders. If it crawls and you don't like it, they're probably going to take care of it for you. Now, they serve all of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they're locally owned. These two guys have been running this business since 2013, and every year they get bigger and bigger. But you know what they still do? They still have great customer service. In fact, if you get a hold of them, they're usually going to have your quote and your job ready to go within 48 hours. That's pretty good. Now, you can call them for a free estimate at 469-809-1769. You can find them online at Grandeur4, that's the number 4, shore.com. You can also find them on Facebook. Just type in
Here we go! Buck, here we go! Here we go!
Oh, wait, dadgummit, hang on. I forgot. Technically, we're still doing football stuff.
I detest you.
And on that note, we have to take a loser shot because the Dallas Cowboys lost yesterday.
Back it up.
You're sipping, you little wussy.
I told you. Bring tarp.
It's not my fault. You told me last minute.
Watch this anymore. It's over. Turn the lights out. Let's get the bulldozers in here and turn this place into a parking lot.
Here we go! Buck, here we go! Here we go!
People are so confused right now listening to this.
Now they're not.
It's time for the old time happy hour.
No matter what, this always makes me smile.
Step and smile a while. Time to sing along with friends of
This
ours.
is OutDrank The Coverage, Monday night football happy hour on L4 Media, brought to you by Grandeur Pest Solutions, Beach Whiskey, and so much more. We'll get into that later, but first, intern Noe, before I ask you how you're doing, before I ask you what are you drinking, I just have one thing and one thing to say.
I am the champion. I am the champion. Cause I am the champion.
So what this is referring to is, as you know, and everybody knows that listens, we do a fantasy football league. We
How
actually
many
do two.
leagues?
We do 2 of them.
Who won them?
Congratulations. You are a 2-time winner of OutDrank The Coverage.
I am the champion.
And in this, in the second league or second season of ODTC, the league, you defeated me
Yes.
soundly.
Hey, no, that actually, we'll get into that. We'll talk a little bit about that here to begin. But first off, how are you doing and what are you drinking?
I was doing good until that. I mean, I had a chance to finally get the intern.
Champion.
Finally had a chance to get the intern tag removed for me, and you know.
No. We're going to talk about that too. But anyway, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm not doing great. Everybody in the NFC East lost. Or
Yeah,
won,
that was a
except for the
weird day.
Cowboys. And I lost in my other championship fantasy football league as well. So I am doing good night loving because I'm trying to consolidate bottles, and I was running low.
That time of year.
So I have to, hit up the store and get another bottle of that. And I'm doing that. And then if I finish this drink, I'll have some Don Julio. That's pretty low, and I'm not sure if I should be mixing vodka and tequila, but I'm doing it.
We'll find out tomorrow.
We'll find out tomorrow. So how are you doing on this New Year Eve, and what are you drinking?
I am doing wonderful, sir. I had 4 championships I was in yesterday. Out of 7 leagues this year, I made the playoffs in 4 of them and advanced to the champions in all of them. So basically, in one fantasy football season, I have more playoff wins than the Dallas Cowboys have had over the last 15 years. I'm just bringing that up. But I also I lost in 1. That's fine. but also I'm just doing good, man. It's the holidays. This is my favorite time of the year. Had the family over Christmas Eve. We had a blast. We're going to go over to co-host Grant from Sideline to Sideline's place for New Year's Eve, even though we got to leave early because my wife works super early on New Year's Day. But I love this time of year, and also I just love.
I am the champion.
I think that's just you recording yourself singing that.
Actually, it's Zach Braff from Chicken Little.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I actually, when I heard it, because I edited it down because it's like a part, and I didn't want to have the music part and all that because of trademark and all that. But even when I was listening to it, I almost thought to myself, I thought to myself, somebody's going to think that that's me actually singing it every time. But no, it's Zach Braff. But no, I'm happy. And to be fair, our matchup was awesome. Like, legitimately, it was a really good fantasy football matchup. It was roller coaster. It looked like after T. Higgins went off on Saturday that I was probably going to beat you by 30. And then Baker Mayfield had his one of 12 great games he has every year. And then the other 5 are really bad. He brought you back in, and then it looked like you were about to lead. And also partly because Buffalo's defense was just knocking it out of the park for you. Like, they were shutting them out and they were doing all that. They did give up a touchdown, which didn't hurt you a lot, but it did back you up a couple points. I went into the game, a Sunday night game, needing Bijan Robinson to have a day, and I appreciate it because he didn't even waste time. Like, by the second quarter, just like the Falcons, he started quick and then faded, and thankfully he didn't fade enough. That 21-yard thing, that was a little scary there for me. I mean, I had created enough cushion, but if y'all don't know, at one point there was a bad snap, whatever, over Bijan's head. It was a 21-yard loss, but that didn't really hurt me. I do hate that I beat you. All jokes aside, I'm not like, we joke like we're like the league, and we're really not. We're not like mean in any way, and like we have fun with it. I'm actually just happy that I'm the ultimate winner of both OutDrank the leagues, and I become the first 2-time winner in one of the leagues.
Yeah. I didn't realize until today we've been doing OutDrank the Coverage since 2020. So this is the 5th season, about to be completed tonight, and you're a 2-time winner. And then ODTC, the league, is the 2nd season, and you won it. You won it for the first time. And we're getting a lot of people that interact. So we have a majority of the teams actually set lineups, do waiver pickups. So, but we will have to make some changes.
Yeah, Grant's getting
cut. There's him
cut.
And about 2 or 3 others are going to have to get cut because I'm getting tired of having to set lineups to make sure everything is fair for everybody.
Yeah,
but it's been a lot more interaction this year than in other years, so that's good. And just replacing a few teams is not a big deal. It'll be less work for me.
To be fair, Grant.
Huh? There'll be less.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, to be fair, Grant filled in for us because we had a need for another guy. It wasn't like he wanted, I'm going to join in. He was like, yeah, I'm not going to do good at this, and y'all are going to have to do these things. And we accepted it we accepted it the first year. Yahoo auto-renewed everybody really before we had a chance to kind of call the list, and so we kind of kept it. Next year, we're going to have a lot of changes, including we're going to have a legitimate fan money league where everybody can win some money and everything, and we might even be having a sponsor where we don't have to pay in. That you just win money if you play in the league and win. We'll be talking about that, of course, when the season gets closer. But I'm a little sad too because I know this sounds weird. Next week I'll be at your house for the last Red Zone. We'll have fun, but even with me doing FanDuel and stuff, it does take a little bit off that there's no. And also the last week is so hard to really gauge who you're going to play anyway, because you're going to get teams like the Chiefs who probably will end up sitting people. I've heard the Cowboys might actually roll out Trey Lance for one more, the last game and things like that. But yeah, overall though, I know you didn't win a championship, but you had a pretty solid fantasy league this year, or fantasy season.
I was in 5 leagues. I made the playoffs in 4. I made it to 2 championships, lost both obviously, and I won 3rd place in another. So overall, it was good. It's probably the most amount of leagues I've ever been in where I'm actually trying. So I think I did well. Obviously, it sucks to get to this point and then lose, but it is what it is. And I had fun. I always love fantasy football, even though I love it, but it gives me anxiety sometimes. I'm like, okay, I got to make the right decision. I can't be putting, I don't know, Ray McLeod on the bench because he's going to have a favorable matchup, might get 2 touchdowns the one time of the year he does it. So.
Yeah. I'm still, and I'm not saying it like, oh, this is the way you should do it. It works for me, and I've won consistently. At least I was looking back ever since I decided to repair my Yahoo Fantasy because I had gotten really crappy, like in 2016 and all, because I would join like 10 leagues and then I just gave up on them. But ever since I decided to rebuild that in 2018, I've won at least one league every year, and I've yet to do a trade. I do waiver wires. Of course, you have to. You get injuries and stuff, or people come out of nowhere, things like that. But I'm legitimately a set 'em and forget 'em type of guy. I look at my lineup Wednesday and usually make a set there, and then if somebody gets hurt or something changes, I get the notifications and I make the changes. But yeah, I've never been like you're the Nick Kroll, you're the Ruxin of the group. Like it's Saturday night at 11 p.m. and you've got your bourbon on the table with you, and you're like, do I need to put in Ray? You gonna get me a touchdown today? And Ray's like, please stop calling me. I've already told the cops about you. You're gonna have to stay away from me. But no, I appreciate that you and I have different ways that we do
I've
it.
won.
Yeah, you've won consistently in other leagues. You just haven't won
I've
yet in
won
our
it,
league.
yes, thanks for. And the sad thing about this, I'm the one that's setting these rules, so I can't even win, and I'm the commissioner, and I'm setting these rules, and I'm
You don't cheat in
but it's only cheating if you get caught, right? And isn't that the Bill Belichick
There you
way?
go. But see, that's the funny thing about you. We joke like that, and you always say you want to be the Ruxin of the group, but you're not really that way at the end of the day. Like you're actually pretty fair, and I think that's why you like the bad guys in movies and Darth Vader and all that. But at the end of the day, I don't think you would I don't legitimately think you would feel good if you did cheat or anything like that.
No. I honestly though, as commissioner, I'd rather not win the championship. I kind of just like to see how the season plays out and see who picks up every year there's a handful of players that come out of nowhere, like Sam Darnold did this year for the Vikings. So it's kind of cool to see how the league forms. Like right now in my company's league, we've never had a repeat champion except for me, and that was like a few years ago. I almost won the third one last year, but I lost on a bucker kick against the Bengals.
Oh,
I lost
that's
like
right.
0.46 points. It was the craziest. But they ended up having it was like the bright side was we had our first woman that won in our league, so that was actually pretty cool. But yeah, it's fantasy football giveth and fantasy football taketh. So I just have to take it for what it is, and I always have fun at the end.
Oh yeah, again, that's the best part is the matchups and all. But you and I were weird. We don't ever really like talk. We just kind of we're like the guys that play against each other in the league and they're best friends. It's just the week of we just don't talk a lot about it. But then we'll also ask each other, knowing full well we're playing each other. Hey, who should I play? And we're honest with each other. We don't like, oh well, play Emmitt Smith. He's going to be good this year. No, we're like, no, I think you should play this dude. I think, and you helped me. I had a quarterback issue once Dak went down. I had a trio of quarterbacks that I was just kind of cycling between Bo Nix, Jameis Winston, and Stafford. Of course, Winston kind of took himself out of it once he lost the job. But Stafford has all the legacy. But man, the last month, Bo Nix was one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league, and he wasn't putting up the 50 that Baker Mayfield was, but he was consistently giving me 28 to 32 points, and that's all you want out of your quarterback.
And then for Knicks, if it was for this season, if it was a home game against a mediocre defense like the Falcons or the Panthers, you start him because he's going to get 4 touchdowns. So yeah, for a rookie, that's where the game plan that Sean Payton, the head coach of the Broncos, designs is more 5 yards or screen passes. It's very short passing, kind of like what Knicks did at Oregon. He's very productive. And then he'll go over the top every so often to Mims or Cortland Sutton. So, yeah, I would think actually Bo Nix had a pretty solid rookie season. I think they'll build off of that in the next season for the Broncos. They might even make the playoffs. I really do think – I do agree with that. I really think the Chiefs will probably rest most of their starters, and that should lead to a Bronco win.
No, and we'll get into that. I want to talk, of course – This week we got round 2 of the college football playoffs. That the one thing they've got, in my opinion, you've got to fix. Don't do a bye week in between the weeks. If you want to do a bye week, do one at the end, which they do before the national championship. I do believe in that. I like that the Super Bowl or the NFL's finally just basically always have a bye week in between. But it's weird to have a bye week between the first and second round because teams that got momentum lose that momentum. And then teams that haven't played, not only did they miss the first week because they have a bye, but that's also a second week. So I think it could be games, but let's go ahead and before we go to the NFL, let's go ahead and talk about the quarterfinals. And the other thing, quit giving them to the bowls. It's so stupid that this is considered the Fiesta Bowl. Penn State, number 6 versus Boise State, number 3. This game is tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. What are your thoughts on this one?
I like that it's not late on New Year's Eve. I will say that. I think that has been a complaint some years where people are going out. They're not really trying to watch these games. But at 6:30 p.m., New Year's Eve, that's a really good time. I think it's going to be a close game. But if Penn State just focuses on stopping Heisman Trophy runner-up Ashton Genty for Boise State, then they'll win by a couple of scores. I like Boise State. I think they had a really good season. Their one loss was a 37-34 road loss at Oregon, the only undefeated team right now, who's the number 1 seed in this tournament. So I really think they're a tough out. But having said that, I really think Penn State's good enough to be in the top 4. Oh, and also let me go back. I don't like when people are starting to use basketball terms for this. This is not the Elite 8, and then the next round won't be the Final 4. This is just the quarterfinals and semifinals. Let's just leave it at that. Stop trying to copy and paste.
Is people trying to make that a thing?
They're trying to make that a thing.
Yeah,
I've heard on multiple shows that they keep trying to refer to it as that. So anyway, I predict Penn State will win this one.
I think Penn State wins, but I think this is a close game. I think Boise State, yes, Ashton Genty, everybody talks about him, and he's amazing and all. But I think Penn State lives by the big play. And Boise State lives by we keep everything in front of us. We're not, and again, Oregon drove on them at times, but they do a really, really good job at times of playing in front. Their issue is when they get into blitzes and they start trying to get aggressive, that's when they start giving up big plays. So they have got to keep the game close so they don't have to get aggressive defensively. I think they will. I think that Penn State will win, but I kind of see it being a little bit like that Oregon game, 35-27, something like that.
Yeah, I can definitely see it being a close game. And I don't really know if Russ is going to be an issue for Boise State. This is the first year of the 12-team tournament, so we really don't know. But, every team that has a bowl game, they have rest period, and there could be a little bit of rust. So I do think Penn State will win. I think they just have more talent across the board, and I think that'll be the thing that prevails them to victory. So.
All right, let's go now to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. This is the very odd college football playoff game on a Wednesday at noon. Number 5, Texas versus number 4, Arizona State. That's not their actual ranking. That's their seeding. I'm just the Texas fan that just is like, I just keep waiting for the bottom to fall out. But legitimately, I think if they stop the running game, which Texas does really, really well, it's kind of like the Boise State Penn State game, but I think Texas is a little bit better with their run game than Penn State is. I think Texas kind of grinds Arizona State down.
So I was going to ask what your thoughts were on Arizona State phenom running back Cam Scatterboo talking about, how nothing's going to be a problem. Like he's ready to go and ain't nobody in the country can stop them.
That's what he should say.
I agree. I love the confidence.
I don't get when people try to make such a big deal when a player says something like that, where they say, hey, I feel like I'm the best player. You should feel that way. That's you don't get to become a great athlete. You don't get to compete at the highest levels by going, oh, shucks, I really hope I'm good enough. You've got to have that. And Arizona State's had a good season for them. And so, yeah, I mean, I would want him to say that. And I think he can give them some problems. But Clemson had success in the passing game. And some of that felt like not flukish, but, even great. We talk about this all the time when we talk about great defenses of the past. The 85 Chicago Bears got shredded by the Dolphins. The 2000 Baltimore got shredded by, I can't remember who it was early in the season. They ended up winning 38-35. Great defenses will still have games where they just get scored on. I just think Texas is just legitimately a better all-around team than Arizona State.
I do agree with that. Now, I will say when Arizona State's quarterback Levitt had started and finished the game, they only lost one game, and that was that random loss to Tech early in the season. Most of their two losses were early in the season, so they're still a formidable team. It is shocking to me that they came from the Pac-12 where they were not one of the best teams, went to the Big 12 and won the conference. Having said that, I think Texas wins for two reasons. One, like you said, their stout run defense, which was great last year too, and that's what big reason why they got to the 14 playoff last season. And along with that, their one weakness on defense last year was their pass rush, which they've vastly improved that.
So much better now. Like, they don't even have to send the house. I mean, and when they do, it's amazing. And I also think it's weird to say this. I think Texas has kind of had that chip on their shoulder because so many people have been like all year, well, like, why are y'all ranked so high and y'all haven't beat anybody and blah, 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 blah. And so I think they have that odd thing where they're the prohibitive favorite, but that the coaching staff and Sark is leaning into the, people say we don't belong here. People say we don't deserve it. Let's go out and prove it. And I think they will. All right, let's go to the game that I think everybody's looking forward to.
I was going to say the other thing about Texas is Quinn Ewers, his shoulder, I guess, is feeling a lot better. So I think that'll also be a big factor in why Texas will win.
If he doesn't make tons of mistakes, legitimately, they can be the best team in the country. I don't think Texas will get beat this year if Ewers has a clean sheet and he throws 240 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I read a scouting report on it that is so perfect on him. He's really good on schedule, but when he has to improvise, he either throws it up, he hasn't figured out that in between of throw it away. It's okay, especially when you have a defense like Texas. You're not having to, and maybe that still worked for him for the, last year, like the Washington game. You can make the case that Ewers kept them in the game and brought them back. It was the defense, and it was the defense that sucked. It's all on his shoulder, so to speak. All right, now let's go to the game that I think everybody is excited about, and the one that I think is the true, this could go either way, and that, of course, is the Rose Bowl. Number 8 Ohio State versus number 1 Oregon. This game is also Wednesday at 4 p.m. Dude, did you? This is, it's all playoffs, but this is almost like old school back in the day when New Year's Day bowls legitimately meant something. Where you were like, and I'm 100% for playoffs. I never want to go back to how it was in the 90s and 80s, but there was something fun about waking up going, okay, if Team A beats Team B and then Team C beats Team D, but they got to beat them really bad, then, I do miss that a little bit, but I do like how it's now. But I'm going to call it now. I think Ohio State wins this one.
Oh, that's a good one. I think Oregon will win. Again, like I said, when we talked about when we did the college football playoff preview last week or 2 weeks ago, I felt that Oregon is the most complete team in this tournament, and I think that's what's
agree with that still.
Now, they had the classic game in Eugene earlier this season where Oregon, I believe, won by a single point, so that'll go in. Ohio State's going to go as far as Will Howard will take them, their quarterback. He's solid, but I just feel like you have Gabriel, who's played 6 years in college football, very experienced. I think the quarterback play for Oregon with Dylan Gabriel, with what he does with his hand, what he does with his arm, what he does with his legs, I think that's going to be the major difference.
I think that going kind of like, and even worse or maybe positive for Ryan Day, I think that they have all that motivation factor going for them. First off, they're going to a place that they've already been this year, so that's not going to be anything new. They know they had a routine when they went out there. They're going to, they know what, and for, road trips are big, but you and I always talk about this, like, when you get in the NFL, if you play for one team for 6 years, and so for 6 straight years, you go to, like, if you're Dallas and you go to Philadelphia, by year 4, going out to Philadelphia is not that intimidating. I mean, it's still, the home team wins the majority of the time and all that. But at the end of the day, you're used to it. And I think the Buckeyes will be used to it. And I think Ryan Day and that team has the whole, everybody's laughing at us. Everybody thinks we suck, blah, 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 blah. And that, I think that thing that gets overrated in the pros, but in the college level and high school level, that kind of motivation still works.
I completely agree with you. And hey, it is one game. It's a neutral site. Anything can happen. I wouldn't be shocked if Ohio State comes in there and wins. They have all the talent. Ryan Day does a great job of recruiting players. They have a stacked roster, probably even more stacked than Oregon. It's just, I'm just going to go with the undefeated team with the experienced quarterback.
All right, and let's finish up the college talk as we go to the Sugar Bowl. Number 7, Notre Dame versus Georgia, number 2. This game will close out the second round or the quarterfinals of the playoffs. Kickoff is around 7:45. This is going to be, what does Georgia do without Beck? And that's going to be the deciding. And yeah, I can't think of the name. The backup did really well in the second half against Texas. But man, that happens because Texas is not prepared for him. You've got adrenaline. You've got all that. Notre Dame has had 14 days now to prepare for him. I'll go ahead and say it. I like Notre Dame in this game.
Gunnar Stockton, he looked pretty good. Yeah, he looked good against Texas. But again, UT went into that game not preparing for Gunnar Stockton. They prepared for Carson Beck. So now there's some game tape. Notre Dame has had time to review it and formalize them. And Notre Dame's been pretty good defensively all season. I think they got over the Northern Illinois loss earlier in the year in South Bend. That was their only loss of the season. I could easily see Notre Dame pulling off. And this would be an upset. This is not the best Georgia team.
I mean, it's everything that I've read, because I would like to see what other people are picking. This has been way more of a pick 'em game than I thought it was going to be.
I think, yeah, because the issue with Notre Dame is their schedule. It was a lot easier than Georgia's was. So a lot of people also, there's an SEC bias still. So Georgia's always going to get that in their favor. They're going to be the favorite going into this game. But having said that, I really like Notre Dame too. I think this is the one upset of this of the quarterfinals that could actually happen. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to say Freeman and Notre Dame pulls off the upset, and they beat Georgia.
Now, we took last week off for the holidays. I really loved what Troy Aikman said about the playoffs. Everybody was talking about the scores and they were blowouts, and he's like, dude, we have Super Bowls that are blowouts. Just because a game's a blowout does not mean that the loss didn't deserve to be there. That just happens. And college football, it's even going to be anymore. And I know in the NFL, parity has finally brought it to where I think what was the last blowout? I guess the Tampa Bay kind of stretched it out on Kansas City. The Broncos on the Panthers. The Seahawks on the Broncos. I guess the Seahawks on the Broncos was really the last holy crap blowout. And that was the first holy crap blowout in 10 years, but that's because of salary cap and parity. I mean, before that, Troy Aikman was in one of them, one of the worst. And are you going to tell me that Buffalo didn't deserve to be in the Super Bowl that year because of what Dallas did to them? That's just how that's how all sports work. And especially when it's a matchup thing. But I really liked that he kind of was like, yeah, you can't judge if a team deserved it simply because of how bad they get beat in the playoffs.
I didn't hear about Troy Aikman, but I did hear about Kirk Herbstreit.
I'm going to say this, and when I say I lost a little bit of respect, it's not like I'm going to spit whenever I see him, but I've always, he was one of my favorites. Kirk Herbstreit was one of, when he really started doing this was right when, not only watching college football, but playing college football on, video game, and he had a voice on there, and his first or second year was me and my roommate, Jamie, we do like you and I do at different houses, but we set up every Saturday. We watched everything. And for him to come out company line this is so unfair for Alabama. And I do appreciate that he apologized. But yeah, that it's Jesus Christ, dude. That was such a company line. Like, ESPN's got to take a step back. You don't have to push the SEC this hard, folks. Let the play on the field determine this.
And he did walk back on that because a lot of people were mentioning the road loss to Oklahoma, the 24-3 game late in the season. So yeah, Herb Street had to kind of walk back on that. And there's a case to be made for Alabama or South Carolina or whoever to get in. But like I told you, if you couldn't make the top 4, the top 10, stop complaining. You don't even deserve to be here.
Look, this is, and I really wish there was a way. And again, I've said this 1,000 times. In 5 years, or probably a little bit longer, at least they might make it to the end of this. This I think it's a 6-year deal with the playoffs. But I know in 2 years, I think they have to keep it the same way this year, next year, and then in year 3 they can start tweaking it. But eventually, we're going to get the SEC and Big Ten be their own thing, and that's where then you'll be able to have true wild cards like you have in the NFL. Until then, we have, as fans, have got to stop looking at it like college football, where how you look matters. It shouldn't matter anymore. Just win your conference.
I mean, right now, Division I's comprised of FCS and FBS. Who's to say there's going to be another division or another group within Division I? Whereas FCS could be like the North Dakota states of the world, the second tier or the third tier in this scenario, and then you could have a mid-major one, somewhere in between FCS and FBS is the bowls. So like what we watch, like with your, all the better teams in Division I, so to speak. But you could have your Penn State and SEC play in like an elite or super league, you can call it, and then the rung right below it'll be the ACC, the Big 12, what's left of the Pac-12, Mountain West, all that, and you can call it some whatever mid-major name you want to give it. But yeah, I agree with you. They should have their own separate because it's just all the talent's going to 2 different conferences right now. It's just unfair to like. I'm happy that about 4 teams from the SEC and about 4 teams from the Big Ten made it, but it almost feels like it's just never going to be good enough. So yeah, I kind of like your theory of just doing like a super league or 2 super leagues and just let them fight it out and have their champion, and then have like another group within Division I to have their championship.
That'll be fun. It'll be fun that way. You'll have all the bowls, or maybe they form their own playoffs as well, and then you'll have the NFL style of college football. And in fact, you could see I could see a world where after SEC, Big Ten break off into their own thing, then the regular NCAA takes over on the NIL and things like that, and they control that a little bit more. And then you just simply, hey, if you want to go play and make millions and millions, you be good enough, go to the Big Ten SEC. And if you're not, go down here and make hundreds of thousands. And I'm not saying they should be capped. That's a discussion for another day. But you and I have both been very much in the, I'm 100% in the, that the players should be paid. I do think they need to tweak things like when the transfer window's open. Like right after the regular season needs to stop. But they can't stop that until they can figure out, okay, so how can we get a guy who wants to transfer in, let's say we start the transfer window in February, but how can he still sign up for classes and be able to do spring football? They've got to figure that out as well. But all that'll get figured out. People got to stop looking at this NIL thing for the last 3 years and assume this is how it's always going to be. Everything, whenever anything is new, it's always the Wild West until things are figured out, and things will be figured out.
Yeah, things will be figured out. I'm not sure exactly what the right protocol is, but I do get tired of players entering the protocol before their team's bowl game. It makes me the playoffs kind of diluted the bowl games in my head. Now that we're expanded to 12 and players are leaving before their team's bowl game, I would extend that to coaches that want to leave for another program. No, they got to stay the whole season. I want to see that team as healthy, as available as possible in that bowl game. And then maybe I'll probably start watching.
Well, you're going to have to make the bowls actually mean something, because here's the thing.
But that would help to make for me. Maybe I'm in the minority here.
You know where you do that, right? This is how you do that. You say, all right, let's do it like you do this. Again, people forget this part. In every major league sport, when you win, you also win money. You know, it's not just about going out and winning the Super Bowl. That's awesome. But like for a rookie, if they're on a Super Bowl winning team, that can make an annual salary, especially if you're a practice squad player, you're getting, you're still getting paid well, but you're getting a certain amount. And then you win the Super Bowl, that's almost double your salary. So do that with college bowls. Just simply do that. Winner gets $500,000.
I'm laughing because that's kind of the theory, but NBA has an in-season tournament, and the winner gets $500,000 per player. Now, like your great players, they don't. That's just a drop in the bucket for them. But like for your rookies and second-year players, that's a lot of money.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. This stupid idea that people have that college sports is better because they're doing it for the love of the game. I've told you this many times. When people say that, that tells me that you only do what you do because of money. That's the why you think somebody. That's the same thing. Well, he got paid, so he stopped trying. Well, why would he stop trying? I mean, I know people that they will not do crap unless they're paid, but when they're paid, they will go to the mat for you and they'll do everything in the world for you. There's nothing wrong with that being the value that drives somebody. And this idea that, just because he got paid, he won't try, that makes no sense to me. Like, I've never understood that. And so I have no problem with that. And I do want college bowl games to mean something again. I miss college bowl games. I miss watching Capital One College Bowl Week. I been lucky that I've always kind of had this time of the year off where I could watch a lot of them. And I used to watch every freaking one of them. Now, I don't even I'll watch Texas and Arizona State. I'll watch at the other ones, but I won't be like locked down and just like I'm watching an NFL game or anything.
Yeah, it'll be on New Year's Day. I'll definitely at least follow it online and check the scores periodically. But it's just, I don't know. It's just not something that even the playoffs are. It's just, I don't know. I have my own thoughts about college football right now. The bowls are meaningless to me. I'm glad the players and the team are making money by being good enough to qualify, but yeah, I barely.
The bowls never meant anything really. Even back when a couple of them would decide the national championship, those were the only ones that would matter. Every other bowl, I mean, it literally used to be called an exhibition. That's why for the longest time, stats didn't count.
I also like that there weren't that many bowl games in prior years.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
I'm okay with it. It's money. Corporations are willing to shill out money. This is a capitalist country, hence the reason why you and I both agree that there should be an NIL for these players, and they should be getting paid to play. But yeah, so I'm okay with 40-plus bowl games because there's money there. There's TV deals. It's whatever. I just don't expect me to watch all 40.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't even know if I would watch 20 anymore.
And I know, like, since you're a double fantasy football champion, that you could lord it over me and force me to start watching all of these. But I don't know. I got to draw the line somewhere.
I am the champion. I am the champion.
I forgot I had
you
one.
Look like
Thank
Guy Fieri and you sound like Zach Braff. That's just crazy.
Hey, I've never frosted my beard. I used to have way back in the day. Last time I had real hair in 1997. Well, I did grow it out in 2017 for a moment, but I frosted my tips like Sugar Ray.
Most 90s thing ever.
I just want to fly if I hit him. Anyway, all right, the NFL game has started, so let's turn our attention to the NFL. That means before we begin, we're going to do a shot in honor of Lions and UT legend Bobby. I will curse the Lions lane, and also very underrated 49ers quarterback John Brody, who just couldn't beat the Cowboys in the early 70s. So we'll do a drink to them. And let's start talking the NFL from yesterday, or just for the whole week, I guess, because there's Saturday games and Christmas. First off, I thought the Christmas Day games were fun. Netflix, good on you. You fixed whatever issue you had with the boxing and stuff. And that was the whole reason they wanted to do that early. They wanted to, and I had a friend of mine that works in the business said he kind of felt that the pushback might have been Netflix saying, hey, we need to push this back closer to when so we know. I thought well, of course, RG3 doesn't really have a job right now, but all the other ones being allowed to work for Netflix for this one day, I thought that was fun. It was cool to see Ian Eagle and what's his name both doing a game.
Noah Eagle.
And I thought the game,
his son Noah.
Huh? Yeah, no, I couldn't think of his name. I thought for the most part, I know people want to complain, but I mean the record smash. LeBron James, I love you, dude, but he made this stupid comment about I love the NFL, but Christmas Day is NBA, and it's not. Like, no, it's not. Yeah, it was. I never understood. I mean, I understood why they tried it, but to me, the NBA Christmas Day thing never took hold for me. Look, I love basketball, and there was a time again when I was single way back, and it was me and my college roommate, and we just did nothing but consume sports. But man, for the last 20 years, I watch basketball starting in about March.
Yeah, I mean, especially now. I know Tennessee and Auburn are kind of dominating the men's side. I think UCLA is dominating the women's side. I can't remember, but yeah, it's really hard for me to follow college basketball just the way it is right now. But like I'm saying, pros, it's a very top heavy. There's like maybe 9, 10 elite teams, and everybody else is mid to lottery pick. So it's and then I also don't like just the current style of play too. And that's the thing we've talked about on this show several times. I just don't like. I don't like unathletic dudes just jacking up 3-pointers from 30 feet away. That's just not basketball to me. There's no strategy behind that. You don't have to learn how to dribble to do that,
Yeah, it's been really hard with the Rangers winning last year and then the Mavericks making the finals last year. I don't like those sports right now.
Yeah, you know what? With baseball, the one thing I do like is the pitch clock. I think it speeds up the game, which was a big issue for me. But I still don't like the fact that they're okay with strikeouts. I'm glad the stolen bases are coming back slowly, but yeah, they don't care about average anymore. They don't care about not being struck out. So it's just I don't know. There's really a lot of strategy that's being lacked. They're just throwing relief pitchers now. Starting pitching is just not a priority anymore. It's just relief pitching.
Well, it's just velocity. It's velocity, and then they're gonna act like, "Why is everybody getting hurt?" Well, it's velocity, dude. You ask somebody to throw 100% of the effort, 100% of the time, you're gonna blow out your arm. But anyway, let's turn our attention to the NFL and the big thing. Okay, so what, in your opinion, what was the better game? I had it as Cincinnati and Denver all week long or all weekend. And then Washington, Atlanta, same score, and kind of like in the same way. Like it looked like Denver was going to have control and they were going to win. It looked like Atlanta was going to be in control and they were going to win. And then great quarterback play shows us at the end of the day, great quarterback play negates a lot of mistakes and a lot of bad things from your team.
I mean, they were both the same score. The home team won in overtime, 30-24. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I would probably say the Cincy-Denver game was the better game, barely. But I did enjoy Washington-Atlanta for the simple fact that I wanted to see Penix, the new quarterback, the rookie quarterback for the Falcons against somewhat decent defense.
Can I say something? If Kirk Cousins plays, they win.
Really? Why do you say that?
Because, and I know Penix had a really good drive at the end at the moment we talked about the clutch.
Go ahead.
The early misses, like there was, I mean, for the first time, and it felt like 10 games, Atlanta had guys running wide open. And that's, well, we can knock Kirk Cousins. He has not played well. But also, I feel like it's weird how this works where you sometimes get a lesser quarterback and you game plan better. The whole time I'm thinking, why wasn't this Kirk Cousins game plan for the last couple, when a quarterback, in my belief, when a quarterback is struggling, reestablish the running game, work on play action, go over the top with simple, easy one-man routes. And they were doing that last night. And I think Michael Penix is going to be great. And you saw some of that moxie. But he missed 5 or 6 throws in that first half that Atlanta could have put the game away. And so I think he is the future. I still think they made a mistake in making the switch. And I think if they miss the playoffs, that's going to be a thing that's going to have to be talked about. Like, okay, why did we do this now? Why didn't we just either do this at the beginning? And I've told you that before. Either do it at the beginning of the year or do it at the end of the year. Doing it in the middle does nothing.
I will counter that by saying I think the Washington Commanders would have strategized differently if Kirk Cousins was a starting quarterback.
Maybe.
But we'll never
That's
know.
a good point.
So I do like your thought on that, though. That is a good point. But, the part of me thinks about that Raider game they had and where he just looked awful against the Raiders, but they still won. But, I don't know, man. That's a good point. Like, what Cousins – so the reason why I thought you were going to say is because this is the Kirk Cousins revenge game, going back to Washington where he got drafted.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that,
He'll
actually.
play for like 6 seasons there and kind of supplanted RG3 as a starting quarterback. But, yeah, I think they me personally, I think Dan Quinn would have strategized differently if Kirk Cousins was a quarterback. But, again, they should have played this way with Cousins at quarterback. They should have emphasized Bijan a little bit more. He had a great game. Like, he was one of the big reasons why this game was pretty close. They had a bad non-timeout that wasted 17 seconds in that final drive, and
oh yeah,
a missed field goal. Which caused to me the missed field goal because it was too far away.
Ooh, this is a pretty uniform game. Detroit came out in the all whites.
Really I kind of wish Detroit went back to their original look for when we were growing up watching them in the 80s and 90s. But this is good. When they do the all white, that's pretty nice. I kind of want to see them do that at home.
I do want to point out, and I hope I didn't jinx myself, I technically haven't won one of the leagues. If Debo Samuel pulls a T. Higgins, and he has the ability to, then I, in theory, could lose. I'm up by like 40 something. I just want to bring that up. And I realize now you've been saying that all day because you've been trying to frickin' jinx me.
Oh, I kind of reverse jinx somebody in my company's league. Yeah, because I didn't want him to be a double champion like I am in that league. So he's going to end up losing. But yeah, reverse jinx are a thing in fantasy football. Lesson learned for everybody to listen.
Everything is in play in fantasy football.
All is all fair in love in fantasy football.
All right, let's go ahead and kind of break down some of the scenarios. Of course, a lot of this is already set. Kansas City, they're the number 1 seed. Buffalo's the number 2 seed. Baltimore clinches the AFC North with a victory against the Browns, or the Steelers get beat by Cincinnati.
And I like how that's set up because those are the 2 Saturday games, the AFC North matchups.
Yes.
Browns at Ravens, Bengals at Steelers. Ravens game is earlier in the day, so if the Ravens win, it's kind of meaningless for the Steelers, but Bengals still need to win, and they need help. So I like the way the Saturday matchups are going to be set up for us.
Speaking of that, when does Cincinnati's coaching staff start getting a little bit of heat on them?
It should have been like 8 weeks ago, but
or last year, maybe. I
they get a pass from last year because Burrow got hurt. Even though they were like 5-5 when he got hurt, he still got hurt. Now, and Browning did really well, and I think I'm kind of surprised he didn't get a starting job somewhere this season. Maybe next season he will. But I think because Burrow got hurt, they got the grace, and they finished 9-8. So which they might finish 9-8 this year, but still be in contention for a playoff spot. Who knows?
It started to look more and more like Joe Burrow is the Dan Marino. He got to the Super Bowl early. He loses one, and then he might not ever really sniff another one again because they're about to lose T. Higgins. I know that you can draft somebody, but I'm not trying to say T. Higgins is number one there. Jamar Chase is an awesome top 2 receiver, but man, you need a T. Higgins on your team. Like, that's the dude that I wouldn't mind seeing. And I know they won't, but like, man, if Dallas were to shock the world and sign T. Higgins, I would be. I'm not going to say I would trade Lamb for Higgins, but I sure would think
there's
about
a lot of teams right now that are in the middle that just need that extra, like Denver. And Denver could use someone like him to
You think Denver kind of wishes Judy was back?
Judy's top 5 receiver this year. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy what someone that actually focuses on you can do for a player like him. That's actually a really good receiver.
Now, to be fair, though, you can make the case Sean Payton doesn't like number ones. I mean, that's always kind of been his thing. Is he always runs through them? He has a bevy of receivers. Hell, Cortland Sutton. 8 weeks ago, it felt like he was going to be cut by the end of the year, if not traded, and he's turned it around. But yeah, anyway, Chargers, they already have the wild card. If they win, they're the 5th seed. If they lose, they're the 6th seed. I'm sorry, they have to win and the Steelers lose to Cincinnati.
Yes.
And man, I tell you what, if they're the number 5 seed and they're going into Houston, I think Houston's in trouble. The Chargers are really flawed. They're not as good as their record. You go and look at who they've beaten. All they're still a year or two away, but the Texans are not a good team this year either. You put the Texans in the West or in the North, I don't even know if the Texans have a winning record.
Yeah, they're
this
pretty
year.
lucky to be in the AFC South, and I feel the Houston Texans, their ideal matchup in the wild card round would be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because I think Pittsburgh's feeling, hey, if we go into Houston, we'll beat
Because
them.
Russell Wilson can only throw 5 yards and 50 yards deep. So Houston has one of the best secondaries in football, though talent-wise. Jimmy Ward and Stingley and company.
Look, Houston's they're facing a year 2 when they took the league by storm last year, and then everybody's adjusted to them. It's up to Houston to adjust back, and apparently rumors are that they're probably going to be looking for a new offensive coordinator. And I know a lot of people are like, "Hey, if the Giants fire Brian DeBall, he would work in very natural to him."
Amazing offensive coordinator for the Houston.
You know who else would be a really good offensive coordinator for Houston?
Who?
Bill O'Brien. I mean, seriously, you cannot knock his offensive coordinator game. Like, he knows what he's doing offensively. And to be fair, I think the whole issue with him when he was at Houston as the head coach was he was just given too much unchained power. Like, I've been watching a lot of Edelman and Gronk. They have a little podcast and they bring on a lot of their guys and they tell stories of. And I actually kind of like Bill O'Brien now. I kind of see why people thought he was what he was, but he just fell. But anyway, let's see here. What's the Broncos? They win. They're in. They can't go up. They're either going to be in as a 7 seed or they're out. Miami is still alive, but they need a lot of help. Miami needs a win, and then the Broncos lose. That's not the worst. That's not, oh my God. I don't think the Chiefs will end up playing everybody. And even if they do, I just kind of feels like they're going to lose a second game. Cincinnati, they're the ones that have the if you hit this parlay, you make the playoffs and you'd win a lot of money. They've got to win, and they've got to have Miami and the Broncos both lose. Again, though, both of those are very doable things, in my opinion. I know, well, it's the Jets and all, but look at what the Colts did. It happens every year. 1 or 2 teams, all they got to do is win. They play a crappy team. And this was the Colts and Giants. It wasn't even like an inter-division rival. This was the most random game. And that's why I wonder and I like him, but if I told you, I said maybe the head coach, but more the offense was fine. I think the Colts have got to make some defensive changes because they didn't look defensively like they wanted to be.
The Giants have lost 10 games in a row. They hadn't won a home game this season. Everybody, including you, picked up the Colts defense in fantasy football, thinking they were going to.
That almost cost me.
I almost won the ODTC of the league because of that move. But luckily for you, had everybody else go off. Anyway, the Colts defense looked terrible on the road against the sorry Giants team right now. And it wasn't like the offense scored 33 points. They were fine. It was the defense allowing 45.
But Flacco did do Flacco things. The white Jameis Winston throw a couple.
Let me tell you. So let's backtrack. Go into Meadowlands. You're playing the 2-13 Giants. 33 points. You think that's enough to win?
100%. Every 999 out of 1,000
Watch
times.
how you say that.
Hey.
No, but like that's what I'm thinking. Like if you score 33 points against a Giant team that their offense has been putrid all season. I know they have a lot of young talent there, but they need a quarterback. Drew Lock looked like a guy that the Giants might want to keep next season. Throwing 5 touchdowns. Crazy.
Oh, that's Foles gold. That's Foles gold. Do it, Giants. Do it. Because that's what you did with Daniel Jones 2
You
years
also
ago.
want the Jets to sign both Rex Ryan and Ron Rivera.
Oh my God, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But Rex Ryan claims that he's being interviewed by the Jets. I don't understand.
I hope it's a troll that just posted that online, because why would the Jets go back to Rex Ryan, and why would Ron Rivera looks like, I think you had mentioned this to me over the weekend. You think Ron Rivera is done, so why would the Jets even entertain this?
I mean, this is ESPN has reported that Rex Ryan, Ron Rivera expected to interview for a head coaching job. I didn't understand why Rex Ryan got so much mileage. I mean, apparently it was Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones were literally like Rex Ryan or Zimmer. I don't understand that. I mean, and again, I know Ryan was a perfectly fine Jets coach for a 3-year window, and I always felt he was way better than his brother was at defensive coordinator. But man, we're talking. I mean, when he went to the Bills, it was terrible. Like, he was part of that era where the Bills couldn't do anything. Rivera, I at least understand. I think Rivera gets a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in Washington because of Snyder and all that. And he did get them to a playoff one year. I mean, it was a weird year and all that,
yeah.
but he did get them to a playoff. So I can see Rivera, but Ryan, I just can't see. Anyway, let's go back to the NFL playoff. We're on the NFC side now. Great matchup. Minnesota, Detroit next weekend for all the marbles. In fact, this game tonight for Detroit actually really doesn't matter. Like, they could lose it and they'd still win. But Dan Campbell, he's like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're gonna keep playing, and they are. They're down 7-0 now, but they are in scoring position. In fact, they hand off to Gibbs. Oh, he gets tackled behind the line. But next week it matters for them. Winner gets the 1 seed, loser gets the 2 seed, or 3 seed, excuse me. Or was it 3 seed? Oh, no, I mean, it'd be the wild card. Yeah, I keep forgetting about that. Man, I would not want to play. Well, I still don't necessarily trust Detroit, but I really don't trust Minnesota. Like, look, what they did against Green Bay is awesome, but I don't trust Green Bay. Look, the NFC North this year feels a little bit like the NFC East did 2 years ago when 3 teams made the playoffs. They were all perfectly fine, but they all just didn't feel right. Now, to be fair, Philly made the Super Bowl and lost, but still, I still feel this way about Minnesota, Detroit, and Green Bay. In the trust factor, I think Detroit's the most talented, so I do think that they have the best bet. But Minnesota, if they get the 5 seed, I could easily see them getting beaten the first round.
Well, it'll be a tough matchup because the Rams or Buccaneers or Falcons will be pretty tough to beat at home. We still don't know who the 3 and 4 seeds are going to be. Just depends on what happens at the week 18. But I don't know, man. I really like what Minnesota's done. It's very similar to what they did 2 years ago. Win a lot of close games.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
To me, also, this season reminds me of 2017 Minnesota when they had Case Keenum and they went 13-3 and got the 2 seed. I like Minnesota. I like what they did when Daniel.
No, I like them. I like them. I just don't trust them.
But when Hunter got traded to Houston, I thought that was really good for them because they got Jonathan Grenard from Houston, who was really good, and they also got Andrew Van Ginkel from the Dolphins, and they drafted Dallas Turner. They had 3. So they traded Hunter for 3 solid defensive players, which to me kind of translated into why Brian Flores and his defense with Minnesota has flourished this year. They've been getting to the quarterback. They've been getting sacks. They've been getting turnovers. And I think it's mainly because of that one move.
Yeah. No, I think Minnesota is built for the long term. I think what they're doing is not a fluke, but I also just think that it just feels like at the end of the day, I just don't know if I can trust I just don't know if
They have to
I
prove
can
it.
trust him. And maybe it's
I
not.
get it. They have to prove it.
Yeah, and maybe it's just not trusting Sam Darnold, But again, let's look at the NFC quarterbacks. Who do you trust who's going to make the playoffs? Matt Stafford?
Goff.
But I'm saying Matt Stafford. I trust Matt Stafford, but look at their offense.
They've been
for the
bad.
last
Ever
month.
since they beat Buffalo in that high-scoring game, they have not been good on offense.
And it's not a lack of health. Both of their receivers have been pretty healthy. Williams at running back's been pretty healthy. I guess I trust Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts is, people don't understand. He's had the one great year in the playoffs, and since then he hasn't won a playoff game. Golf, I trust, I guess, but I mean, he still hasn't won a Super Bowl. He went to one Super Bowl, and it was so bad that the coach had no trust in him. Now, I don't think that that's the way it is now, but I'm just saying. But anyway, let's go to the other ones. So Philadelphia, they're locked into the number 2 seed. The only thing they have Sunday is will they give Barkley a chance at Dickerson's record? I think it's so tasty that he could break it against the Giants. I hope he does.
I
for
wish
that
it
reason.
was in New York, but they already played early in the season in New York. So yeah, this one's gonna be in Philadelphia. But yeah, that would be amazing if.
Dude, you realize if it was in New York, the fans would be rooting for him. That video of that assistant GM or whoever that is basically saying, like, look, we're about to do something really stupid, but this is what y'all want to do. So let's just hope he doesn't go to the Eagles and rule the day. And that's exactly what's about to happen. I don't know, man. The Giants went from one of the most consistent teams to one of the stupidest teams overnight. Let's see. The Rams, they're the NFC champs. And they won. This is one of those weird, quirky things about deep tiebreakers. They won the division because of what AFC teams were doing, because they needed them to score certain points and to win, which helped with the NFC West was going down to like the 10th or 11th tiebreaker. I mean, they were at the point where it was going to be like send nudes of wives and we'll rate them, and that's who gets the playoffs. And so they get in like that. They have a chance for a 3rd seed if they beat Seattle. But even if they don't, if Tampa Bay were to somehow lose to the Saints, which, hey, wouldn't be the shocking thing, they'll get the 3 seed. They could dip to the 4th seed if they lose to Seahawks and Buccaneers defeat the Saints. That would be an interesting matchup. Rams versus Minnesota or Detroit. Sean McVay versus Tampa Bay can only make the playoffs as the NFC South champion. They have to beat the Saints. Or Atlanta get beat by the Carolina Panthers. I love what Atlanta's done, but they're not going to make the playoffs, I don't think, this year. I think Tampa Bay will beat the Saints.
I'm trying to think what Atlanta needs to do going into 2025 to get over this 7-10, 8-9 hump. Because I thought they really tried to address it in the offseason, and I thought they did a good job, but it just hasn't translated on the field.
I'm going to say this. I like him, but I think the first mistake was hiring Raheem Morris. He's a perfectly okay coach, but he's not a coach that takes you to the top. He's not a coach that gets you over the hump. I don't know if they didn't ask him. I know he kind of backed out early, but imagine that offense, and this is a really good offensive core. Imagine them with Ben Johnson as their head coach.
Lions offensive coordinator, yeah. And I know he's been linked to the Bears for next season, but I don't know if he would. I don't know if going to a division rival is the best thing, but I mean, Dan Quinn did this season, and
oh yeah, that kind of stuff doesn't matter. In fact, a lot of times, and I don't think Atlanta's going to get rid of Raheem Morris. I don't necessarily think they should. But it just felt like a really safe hire. And usually when you keep being 7-9, 7-10, now you're like that because you're doing safe things. And also, to be fair, Matthew Judon has not been what they thought he was going to be. He only has like 6 sacks on the year. His age is starting to show. I think that was one of those things people didn't realize, because he spent so many years being almost great because others were around him. He was just consistent. I don't think people realize, oh, wow, he's in his 30s now. And in fact, he's 32. He'll be 33 before next year. They don't have a pass rush. That's been their weakness. Now, in saying that, they'll have stretches like they did last night where they get like 3 sacks out of 4 snaps, and then they don't get another sack the rest of the game. I think Atlanta's close. I really do. But I mean, I guess it's just keep drafting well.
Yeah, keep drafting well. Address the defense because they try to do it to free agency, and the only one that kind of really hit was Jesse Bates, their free safety. So,
and he's good. He's really good. And I do think I'm I don't necessarily believe in karma, but I do think there's a little bit of this is like ha ha ha, because I really do feel like they really kind of screwed Kirk Cousins. Like you sign him and then draft somebody to help him. You don't sign him and then draft your future quarterback with a number 1 pick. I mean, let's go look. Hang on. This will be a fun little exercise. This is why I love you. We can just talk what we want and we can do it well. Let's go to the NFL Draft 2024. Let's see who was picked around him, and we'll say anybody after. We won't say anybody for.
So
we're not going to
already know who they should have picked in that draft. It should have been who Minnesota got, Dallas Turner, because they needed an edge rusher. They needed a linebacker / edge rusher, and he was perfect. Like I thought he was strictly. I don't know if I said that in our draft show in April, but I thought
you liked him a lot.
I liked him a lot, and it just seemed so logical that he would go to the Falcons. It's a need and a perfect fit.
And he wasn't even drafted till the 17th pick. He fell all the way. Minnesota was able to draft J.J. McCarthy. Now look at that. I sent you that video earlier today. Like, to be fair, Minnesota, it made sense. Sam Darnold was seen as a bridge quarterback. Now they have to make the decision. I've heard reports that they're going to ask J.J. McCarthy to possibly play a different position. But that made sense, even though I still don't understand why he's the number 10 pick. Jesus, folks, have we not learned that just because you play spunky in college, that don't mean crap? Not every spunky white quarterback's the next Tom Brady, folks. I know Kyle Pitts had a pretty solid game last night, caught a touchdown, but imagine Brock Bowers on Atlanta.
Oh man, that would have been fantastic. He's already set rookie records this season.
And it's not like you couldn't do like Buffalo and use both of them. Use both of them in the pass game. Imagine Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle that's now with the Jets. Imagine him blocking for the backside of Kirk Cousins. On defense, Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle for Texas. He was really good for Seattle. Latu, really solid defense. I mean, again, it's not just the pick of Penix. It's the fact that you did it and you took players away from Kirk Cousins that could have helped them now, and then you're going to blame him and bench him and going to cut him. And by the way, Kirk Cousins is going to go somewhere next year and watch. I guarantee you. And some people think, he's going to retire. I don't think he's done yet. He doesn't play a game that his age is really affecting him. He's not running around. He's not athletic. I see him playing 3-4 more years easy.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that just needs a solid offensive line. Not really a great one, but a solid one, because he will sit in that pocket and throw. But in the games where Atlanta, especially those 2 wins against Tampa Bay, where he has time to throw the ball, he's still really good. Now, the Tampa's problem is they have Vita Vea, and he's really good at stuff in the run, but their pass defense is atrocious. He's my favorite
interior defensive lineman right now.
Yeah.
And he's still a guy I wish Dallas would have got back then. I was sad when they didn't get him. I mean, you want to talk about, we would have had the issue that they've had the last few years with their lack of, run interior strength and everything like that. He'd have taken care of that for you. But anyway, so let me go to the other ones. I think that we finished out the
scenarios.
The scenarios. For the most part. So let's go ahead and talk Dallas. They got their ass kicked. I agreed with Micah Parsons, though. He made, a lot of people are giving him a hard time. He said, take away the scoreboard, that game was decided by about 5 plays. It really was. I mean, it was just so for the games where Dallas upset Tampa, every bad play that happened went against Tampa for the most part. For Dallas, I mean, you saw, think about it. that first drive, they were driving down the field, and then Cooper Rush became Cooper Rush. Then the very next drive, they scored. Now, to be fair, Philadelphia didn't have the ball in between that, but let's say they get them to 3 and out, and all of a sudden you're up 10 or 14 to nothing. I think the game's completely different, but at the end of the day, Philly's backups were better than Dallas's backups.
Yeah, I mean the Cowboys to me it was turnovers. And, like what you said with Cooper Rush, this is basically what happened 2 years ago in Philadelphia on a Sunday night. Cooper Rush, he's 4-0 as a starter, went to Philadelphia and he threw 3 interceptions and they lost. It ended up being a close game, but that was the determining factor.
Didn't that really basically happen earlier this year against the Eagles? Cooper Rush was terrible.
I started off with the pick 6. And then I'm looking here, and I see a fumble by the Cowboys. Eagles get a field goal, interception by the Cowboys, a touchdown. So that's 17 points right there off of 3 turnovers in the first half. And then I'm looking, Cowboys had another fumble in the second half, which resulted in a touchdown. That's 24 points off of 4 turnovers. That's the difference in this ball game.
Yeah, exactly. That is 1,000% the difference in this ball game. And to be fair, I'm glad, I don't want to look. I enjoyed winning the 4 out of 5. It made the season fun again. But now lose to Washington. Let's get the a number 9 or 10 pick. I still contend I don't really want them to have the number 5 or 4. I know that's crazy, but what they need, you're not drafting in the top 4. What they need, you're drafting in the 9 to 12. They need linemen. They need linebackers. I think maybe they need some secondary. They don't need a running back. I would love Ashton Genty to be the running back for the Cowboys in the second round. And I think there's a chance he could be in the second round. And it blows my mind, all these people who are now going, man, we really need him in the first round. Really? Did we not learn with Zeke Elliott? You don't draft first-round running backs anymore. This is the problem.
Everybody saw that one article that said in this mock draft, Ashton Genty is probably going to go to the Cowboys, and they're just going off of that. Where he was positioned in that draft, I don't think that's a good spot to pick a running back. I agree with you on there at that point. And the Cowboys, they need so many different parts, as you just mentioned. Secondary help. They need depth. Depth's a huge issue. They need a succession plan at right guard for Zach Martin. Quarterback is actually not the worst thing. We have Cooper Rush, who's probably the best backup in football, one of the best.
But you're not drafting a quarterback in the first round.
Especially in this class. No. There's only really 2 or 3 quarterbacks I would even consider picking in the first round.
No, I don't even know if there's any first rounder this year. That's what I'd call. I know Sanders.
Shedeur and Cam Ward are probably the blue chippers, and I would actually put Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur just has that flash. He has the lineage, the name, because he's Deion's kid. So they're already
Who's the bigger, higher risk, high reward?
Yes,
guy?
high risk, high reward, and
he would be great for the
Giants. And this goes back to my point about bowl games. They didn't even show up against BYU. They look terrible. This is a team that went 9-3 during the regular season, and they just didn't even feel like showing up in the bowl game.
So speaking of, did you have an issue with what Cam Ward did?
Let's see. So he threw 3 touchdowns the first half, and him and Cristobal, the Miami head coach, decided they mutually agreed that he could sit the second half, play the back.
Wait, what did you just say? They mutually agreed. This was not something that the way people are wording it on Facebook is like he went into the halftime and said, "I'm out."
Because he got the touchdown record.
Yeah. And the whole time was Cristobal said, "Hey, as soon as you get the record, let's pull you. You don't want to get hurt, and we need to start working on next year anyway." And so for all these people that bitch about people opting out of the bowls, hey, that's fine. I don't give a crap. Unless you're in the playoffs, But if you're winning the Boudin Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana, I don't want my seniors playing. I want my sophomores and juniors to be getting reps and practice time. And also, that'll keep them from transferring. You got a junior come in and say, "Coach, I'm out. I didn't play all this year." And you say, "Dude, Joe Blow ain't playing in front of you this bowl game. This is all you. Prove to me you can do it, and you've got the job next year. Again, use the bowl for the right things. I had no problem with it. Dude, it's an exhibition, folks.
I agree, but and I'm okay with all that. Everything you just said, I'm okay with. But it just decreases the chances that I'm actually going to watch it.
Yeah. See, I'll watch it. I mean, again, hopefully it'll be a while before Texas isn't always around the 12. I would watch if Texas is like, okay, we had 20 starters and we're going to start 16 new guys who are our future. I would watch because I'd be like, okay, I want to see what they're going to do.
You know what? I think that's the issue because I went to UTA. I went to University of Texas at Arlington. Didn't have a football program. I don't have a tie. I don't have the family lineage that you have, or like you have generations of Longhorn fans.
And A&M fans.
And A&M fans. So, I mean, there's a lot of passionate fans, like Texas Tech. I got good friends that are Texas Tech fans. They'll go watch the bowl game. Arkansas fans, Texas Tech and Arkansas played in the bowl game recently. So they'll go watch it just because they went to that school, and I get that. I just didn't go to one of those schools, so I guess, and I also don't have a favorite college team, so I just I'll watch the playoffs because I like something. I like watching games that mean something.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, and I think that legitimately is something they've got to figure out. I think what used to always bring the bowls, again, like me, even as a Texas fan, like I said, I can remember 2002. My roommate Jamie sometimes listens, so if he listens, I hope he remembers this. In 2002, dude. This is back when you still had the big non-flat screen TVs. And we would do this in the NFL Sundays, but on this bowl week, we basically rolled out TV into the living room. We had the middle living room. We had a bedroom on each side. We had the TV that was playing the college football game. And next to it was the TV where we were playing college football on the game. And I would run offense and he would run defense, and we would build it. And we did that the whole week, dude. To the point, I can remember at one time my PlayStation was literally glowing on the back. It had gotten so hot because we had it on for this is back when you didn't sleep and everything. And we had it on for 18 hours. And
back when you didn't sleep,
think
I love that.
Yeah, now I'm like, me, I message you like, dude, it's 9:00 and I'm not in bed. Something's wrong. I might need to go to the hospital.
We are getting
all right. Let's. Yes, we are. And you know what though? I do appreciate the. I actually appreciate the sleep now. Like, I love it. As I always joke about my wife, she works a job that she has to wake up early, and she doesn't break her sleep. And so I will be so excited on Friday night that because she gets off work at 2:30 and gets here by 3:30, that we're going to have our Friday drinks. We're going to order some drunk McDonald's, but we're also going to be in bed by 9:00. And we're going to sleep a whole 12 hours usually. All right, let's go to uniform games for last week. Best uniform game, Cowboys-Eagles, and it wasn't because of the Cowboys. Eagles, if y'all do not keep the Kelly Green, then y'all are just stupid.
Man, remember us messaging yesterday at noon when we saw that they were wearing the Kelly Green? I was so angry because I don't want to root for them. But then I saw their end zone. They had the Eagles and the Eagles font that I liked from back in the day, back in the Cunningham day. And
I had the fly eagle at the 50-yard line that they used to.
I was so mad. I was so mad that I loved it.
I did too. Chiefs Steelers, really, really good. Chiefs wearing their yearly. I think they do it once a year on the road. They wear all white, and I love their red pants, but I do like I really do wish they'd break out the yellows from the 70s.
I love when they did that in the 2019 playoffs.
Yes, that was kind of their thing.
Yeah. I was watching a little bit of that Tom Grossi, Brandon Perna, that GPS show they do, and they were talking about the worst case scenario for them would be a Vikings Chiefs Super Bowl because Grossi's a Packer fan, he hates the Vikings, and then Brandon Perna is a Bronco fan, he hates the Chiefs. But I was thinking, man, Super Bowl 4 was Vikings Chiefs, and now it's 55 years later, and it's actually two potential Chiefs are number 1 seed. Vikings could be the number 1 seed after what happens next Sunday night. Who's to say? That could happen. That could happen. be the oddest matchup, just because I just can't imagine Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl. But I would love it. It would be one of the most beautiful uniform games in history.
Okay, so I do have one issue with the Vikings helmet.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see the Vikings on mine. Yeah, you can.
Would you have in order by the division standing?
Oh yeah. By the way, we have not a new set, but a different looking set. You can't see it all when it's just me. When you're in studio starting in January for our once a month record sessions, or as I call it, drowning my liver. You'll be able to see it. We have a smaller table. It's a little bit more intimate. Gives me more room. I loved what I did by splitting the studios, but the one negative is it got really full because we had the big table over here. We got rid of that. But yeah, I like the gray face mask or the white face mask. I don't like the purple face mask because it's not the same. It took the Vikings 50 years to get the helmet and the jersey right. They finally got that right, and then they have the purple face mask is just a little weird. Packers look lovely as always. I read a report that they are thinking about every time they wear the white jersey, they're thinking about going with the white Green Bay helmet. I think that's brilliant. And I do think we'll start seeing that more and more. And everybody always talks about Oregon and their uniform changes. Do you know who is the first school that started doing that? And they did it in the early 2000s.
I couldn't tell you who.
Washington
the Cougars.
State.
Okay.
They wore silver helmets when they wore the red jerseys. They wore red helmets when they wore the white jerseys. Yeah, it was great, and it was unique, and it was different. And then, of course, Oregon came out with what they do now, and that's just we're going to find 7,000
Phil
different.
Knight and Nike are funding all that, so.
Yeah, no, you're right. But give Oregon credit. It always looks good. Like their look, I do tend to like the yellow helmet and the fighting duck, but all their looks usually look pretty good. But anyway, yeah, Washington State did that. I think you're going to see more teams start doing that in the NFL. And I will go back to, I really wish Dallas, if they're going to keep the white helmet, which I like. In fact, I mean, you can't see it right now, but when we do a show in the offseason, you'll be able to see it because I've got all the other Cowboy helmets except for that one up. I like this helmet. They got to get rid of the blue on the jersey, though. Go all white. Just go all, and I don't mean the same white that they do at home. Do it with the navy blue numbers, but either go all white or go back to the big star. I still want to see the double stars with white pants. I think that would look so sharp. The issue that I always had with the white jersey blue double stars, where they wore them with the silver pants, and it just looked weird.
Didn't look good at all. You know what? How many? I have thoughts and opinions on all that. The Cowboys look. As I get older, I do agree with you. The green pants were not really the best look, especially if you watch it live. I kind of wish they went with a gray or silver pants, like authentic. I think it'll look okay on camera. My only issue is I hope it matches the helmet. You know, usually when teams can't match the jersey to the helmet, it's good to just wear a different color. So like Vikings back in the day when they couldn't do it, they would wear the purple helmet, white jersey, purple pants. So the color coordination, like the color difference of the pants and the helmet were not as noticeable.
I kind of like the powder blue pants the Cowboys wear at home now. But I totally get what you're saying. The funny thing is for the last 25 years, the road pants have been silver. They've always been silver, and they look good. That's part of the reason why the Cowboys blue look to me is one of the most underrated looks. And I know we joke about the loot, but seriously, just on pure.
They should wear those silver pants at home.
I kind of like the powder blue ones. Now that they figured that out, I kind of like them. Okay. But that's all. I mean, dude. I mean,
to me, it's just another blue color. I just don't think it. I don't know. It's better than what it was.
I don't think you're wrong. I'm just saying I do like the powder blue. If they went to silver at home, like with that, like their road silver, I'd have no problem with that either. I think that would look perfectly fine. And to be fair, the old teal, again, before HD on TV, and you can even when we're watching YouTube stuff, it looks like it's silver.
Jameson Williams.
Is he going off?
They did like a hook and ladder to Jamison Williams.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was about to say he scored earlier. Yeah, San Francisco leads 14-6 right now. You're kind of seeing.
Oh, I'm ahead of you.
What? Oh, did they do another touchdown to Jamison?
This is a hook and ladder to Jamison.
Oh yeah, it just happened. There you go. I'm not actually watching the game. I got the scoreboard on. So
okay.
Williams has 2 touchdowns because he had a touchdown earlier too on a rush. So he basically now they're calling that a. Speaking of, I know it ended up basically costing them, but the Colts tried that on the 2-point conversion that would have tied the game. I think if they get that, they win. It almost worked. But the guy that was catching it fumbled it, and that's why teams don't do that more.
You know who it was?
It wasn't Taylor, was it? Was it Taylor?
I watched it live yesterday on Red Zone, and I was just laughing because I'm like, oh, man, this guy, he's had a great season, but he hasn't had a great season.
Yeah, it's really weird. And you know, and legitimately, if he, in my opinion, if he gets that, they win. If they get that 2-point conversion, I think they win. But anyways, let's go back to other uniform games. Let's see. Cardinals, Rams. The Rams, I'm out on the Rams. I told you that before. The idea's there. When they wear it all white, I'm fine with it. I just don't like the gradient. You know, just go back to you had a great look. I'm not as big of a fan of the white Rams as much as everybody else was, but that's still a good look. And then, of course, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can. That's a great look right there. The blue with the yellow horn. That just go back to that.
It was a good color contrast to me, and that's why I put him on that list.
No, I agree with that.
And if you don't look too close enough, it still looks like the old Rams.
That's a good point.
And I kind of went based off of that.
And if they kept the gradient but navied up the blue a little bit, the blue just doesn't. I don't know. Jets and Bills, very good. The Jets have got it going on. They did it right this year. Dolphins and Browns, good. Again, the Dolphins, when they're not at home, they still have a great look. I like the all white with the baby blue because it's really more baby blue. I still wish they'd go back to their old look. Raiders, Saints, very underrated. I still am not a big fan of the pajama look of the all black and it's just because there's no trim or anything. Put some gold trim down that. And also another thing, that one's a little bit. They need to get back to the bigger fleur de lis. I don't like how small the fleur de lis. It used to be massive. Like it took up the whole helmet. And I know part of the reason why they don't anymore is because all these helmets are so different. So sometimes you'll get some helmets where the logos are like offset back. You'll get some of them where there's like a,
yeah.
I get that, but man, make it a little bit bigger. That's what she said. Colts and Giants, beautiful Colts, underrated look. Giants, a little confusing on the end zone. Like, I get what you were trying to do, but you were like the 22-year-old chick that tried to do too many different drinks and you just throw up all sorts of things on the floor. It was unique, but I didn't like it. Didn't look right. And what I mean is, in their end zone, first off, they have one of the best 50-yard looks, that big New York helmet. And when they wear the Giants helmet, it says Giants. In the end zone, they had the NY and the Giants. Both of them are on their helmets. The problem is they should have made it look where it said NY Giants. Make that the whole end zone. Instead, it was like catty cornered and it was weird and it felt like you were missing like half the end zone. So I think what would look good is you go NY, New York, and then have the Giants helmet and have both of them. I thought that would look good.
Yeah, so basically what they were doing was trying to pay homage to their helmet logos of all
trying
time.
to remind the Giants fans when there were some good teams. What you're trying to say.
Yeah, so they had the big Giants in the middle to remind them of the 80s and 90s, or really just the 80s team. And the NY for the 50s legacy, the dynasty they had, and then, of course, the Eli Manning years in the 2000s. So I get what they were trying to do, but yeah, I agree with you. Initially, when we were talking about this yesterday, it was the font of both that was confusing you. And then I had to look it up. I was like, I kind of agree with you, but I think that was on purpose.
No, it was. And what I meant by the font, I understood what they were doing, but it was how it was placed in the end zone. They were both small, and then there was a lot of end zone. Like I said, if you'd have done that as NY, with that font and Giants with that font, but make them both where they take up the whole end zone, I think it would have looked a lot better. Bad uniform games, it's the same. Seahawks, sorry, y'all got to change something. That looks just. I liked it when y'all debuted it, but it's time to change. And then Ravens Texans, not because of the Ravens. Sorry, Texans
and
fans.
they had a whole offseason to figure this out, and they had fan voting, and this is what they came up with. It just looks terrible.
Well, again, I don't mind that one. And they were wearing their, what I guess you would call the city look because that, what NBA. I don't mind that one because that legitimately is what the fans wanted. I don't like it, but if that's what your fan base wants, then okay, I just hate the genericness of the other looks. You turn the TV on, is that the
Bears,
Texans or is that
Bears
the
and the
Bears?
Falcons?
Or is that the Falcons? Or how the hell is it can be the Bears and the Falcons? They don't even have the same colors. I mean, it just I still feel like the Texans will do like Tampa did a few years ago and quietly kind of shift back to their old one. I still don't understand why they don't go with a true flip your colors.
You and I could fix
go
that
red
whole
as
thing.
the main look.
Red's the main look. We could do a white helmet with the blue logo and a red helmet. You and I could just figure it out. Yeah.
Well, and I think they need to get rid. Oh, you can't see because I forgot. I changed it over. I didn't hate the horn, the bull, but get rid of that. Do the state of Texas with a star in Houston. That'd look beautiful. Great. Yeah. I mean, that would be freaking beautiful. I still wish they would have went true Texas and gone with a brown and gold, when you think of rustic and I know you think more San Antonio, but still the same thing. But anyway, that was a bad uniform game. All right, where else you want to go? Because I'm not ready to get done. I'm having a good time. We're going to keep talking.
Oh, great time. Hey, let's look at the Monday Night Football game. Right now it's 14-13 49ers. Ricky Pearsall just got hauled in a big catch. 7:30 left in the first half. First and goal for the 49ers. They're actually playing pretty well.
Moved up and down. And again, I think with the Lions, you're getting we're going to try, but we're not going to we're not going balls to the wall because they can lose this and still, it comes down to them next week. So let me ask you this. Does Brock Purdy get the big extension?
Oh, man. I've been going back and forth on this. It's funny you asked this. Because on one hand, he's young and he's proven he is good enough. This year, they just had a lot of injuries. He's been the best player on that team this season.
But him as the best player has got them out of the playoffs.
Because of the injuries.
But again, if you're going to pay a quarterback 150, 200 million, you're asking him to be good when there's injuries.
I mean, I get it, but when you're losing key players on offense, defense, huh?
He just ran in a touchdown. I like Purdy. I like Purdy a lot. I think the thing that's going to probably save San Francisco with that is he's going to want money, but he's not going to. Again, going back to, I don't knock a player for wanting that bag, but understand if you take every penny possible, you're hurting yourself in other parts of the game. I don't think
Dak.
I mean, we talked about. I'm happy Dak became the highest paid quarterback. You also have to understand, folks, that in 2 years, Dak's going to be like the 10th highest paid quarterback. He just happened to be up next. But I also go back to, dude, you've already made $100 million. If you'd have just taken $40 million, but I think Purdy will.
That is not the point.
Oh, I know. And again, I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking the idea, but don't understand that you're hampering your career most likely.
It's funny, you and I both were scratching our back at the same time.
Yeah, I'm dry skinned. I'm a back scratcher. I get that from my dad. My dad always has his back itching, but especially this time of year when it's cold. It was 78 degrees today.
So yeah, I agree. Go with what you want. I guess as a football fan, you and I are in the same boat. Purists, we look at Tom Brady. We look at Patrick Mahomes. They both took major pay cuts to help their team improve because their main focus was, okay, we're making all this money. Either my wife is making a lot of money or I'm getting all these endorsement deals. Doesn't really matter. The focus is I got a short window. I'm not young. I mean, I'm young, but I'm not, I'm not going to be in this league for 50 years. I'm going to be in this league for another 10 years.
Hell, Mahomes has already been in the league, 6 years?
No, even longer. This will be year 8.
Seven as a starter. Seven as a starter.
Yeah, 7 as a starter. He'll be 30 years old next season.
I mean, and he's, barring major injury, he seems like, unless he just goes on a run where he wins 4 in a row and he's like, 4 more, and he's like, okay, I've done everything I can. He's a baller. I think he'll play as long as he can. But I mean, look at Dak. Dak's been in the league now 8 years. I mean,
this will be. I think this will be actually year 9, but he missed 2 of the years just because of injuries, 2020 and 2023, and then he missed some in 2022.
Yeah,
or sorry, 2024, which is this year, and then 2022. Yeah.
But yeah, and again, I'm not knocking Dak. Get your bag, but also, and I'm not saying he has complained, but also understand when you don't have a lot of depth and your defense ain't that great. Part of the reason why is because you're needing to make $60 million.
Yeah.
Let's all pull the bag back and go. Okay, let's look at the social economic part of that. Brady grew up middle class. Mahomes grew up a little bit upper middle class. He had a dad that played baseball for 15 years. Dak didn't. Yeah. And there is part of that. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but there is part of that where Patrick and Brady, like, they've lived comfortably, so they know that, hey, we can make $20 million less, but still make enough money where we don't have to worry about what we eat.
There's a priority component to that. Like each of those players has a different priority, different mindset. Like what's important to them. I can't selfishly expect every NFL player to have a number one priority of winning Super Bowls and creating a dynasty. I have to understand that some players come from low means, or just from they lower class, or maybe low middle class, and money would change everything for them.
It's generational wealth. I mean, Dak Prescott isn't barring if he takes care of his money, hell, he's making enough to where he could blow his money and still be fine. But
the thing, and he seems like a type of guy that would be able to manage his money, take care of his money. But I guess from you and my point of view, I'm like, okay, $60 million a year is great. That is generational wealth. But so is 50. So is 45.
Exactly. Especially when you're making, as the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, he's probably making another $10 million a year in promotions and endorsements and all. And it's just, it's again, it's the same thing with Neil. It's the same thing with the transfer rules.
Yep.
I'm all for that kind of stuff, but you have to also acknowledge at least the negative of that. You can't just be like, la, 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 la. No. They're making their money. That's fair. Everything's happy. Well, yeah, there is. But then you also have to accept that when things don't go well, it might be partly because of the money. And all that is now Detroit's driving. This feels like just one of those old fashioned shootouts right now.
In an ideal world, with AK pre-93, no salary cap, there would, you could just highest bidder, and you could just keep getting the highest bidder. Like what soccer does now. What specifically Man City does right now.
Well, I mean, just soccer in general, and people might not know. Soccer players, and the NFL has done this way. A lot of people don't understand. Outside of bonuses and things like that, the NFL's paid weekly during the season. Technically, the playoffs, players aren't paid. That's a funny thing. It's technically free. In soccer, they're paid weekly, but their salaries are so ungodly. And we're talking about everybody. There's no minimum. There's no, anything like that. They make a crap ton, but also at any time their contracts can be bought out and they have no say in that. Now they can be like, I'm not going, but yeah, you're going. I mean, if somebody buys you out, you're going to, and so that's the difference right there. There's that balance where, players get paid a ton, but the soccer team be like, okay, you were okay for year 1, year 2, you suck, you're out. We're going to find somebody else. And maybe that's something, the NFL does more. I don't know. Look, we can like it or not, but Jerry Jones and Carmen Policy were right in the 90s. They knew we have too much talent. And if we pay all this talent, A, we're going to go broke, but also B, we're going to make the game not as fun because you're not going to have what we have now, whether you like it or not. Parity is fun in the NFL. Dallas, dude, I know it seems like, holy crap, what are they going to do? But they're basically 3 good players away from next year, especially because they're going to get a better schedule with their 1 or 2 different games. I fully expect Dallas to be back in the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers proved this year that even just better coaching, simplifying the offense will take a 5-win team and make it an 11-win team.
And they're in a division where 2 other, well, I mean, we know for sure 1, but also Denver could make the playoffs. So it's not like, oh, well, the Chargers were, and I do think that some of I think they're a little bit paper tiger here in year 1, but still, they were in a competitive division and they're going to make the playoffs.
Hey, you know what? The Chargers beat the teams they should have beaten, and they lost to most of the teams they should have lost to.
That's a good point. And
because
that's how it works.
And you know what? That's what Harbaugh will do. Like he took a team. He did improve the team. Lad McConkey's 1,000-yard receiver. Quentin Johnson, of course, he's had some bad games. He's had some bad drops, but he played way better this year than he did his rookie year last year. Drafting Joe.
You can see what Johnson's going to be in that offense.
Drafting Joe Alt, establishing a running game to protect Justin Herbert, who played the whole season. These are good moves that he made. The defense outside of that Tampa Bay game, which was terrible, they were solid the whole season. So keep adding to that, and then let's see what happens in year 2, and then especially year 3. I still think year 2 is going to be better than year 1, but it's not going to be – I don't think they'll make it past the divisional round if they even get that far. But I think year 3 with Harbaugh, 2026, I think the LA Chargers will be the team that's going to be the favorite to make it to the Super Bowl.
Does teams like Seattle? Seattle's playing for a playoff spot. They've made the playoffs.
Well, they were until the Commanders won last night. So that the whole Seahawks game is meaningless.
Yeah, that's
but like you had earlier, there was like 5 scenarios where if 3 of those teams won, the Rams would win the NFC West, making the Seahawk Ram game next week meaningless. And 2 of them hit, right? Bills won, I think another team won, I can't remember who. But the third team that hit was Washington in overtime last night. So the Rams have won the NFC West. Seattle's eliminated. So next week's game is meaningless. But Seattle is a team that's kind of attractive because they're 9-7. Because the game is meaningless, maybe the Rams don't really start everybody. They're just okay with the 3 or 4 seed. And the Seahawks end up winning. They go 10-7 going into next season. Is pretty hopeful. Jackson Smith and Jigba from Rockwall. He had a solid year. He's one of the top 10 receivers this season. DK, if he can keep his temper down, is another solid receiver for them.
I don't know what they do with DK.
I mean, whoever wants to pick him up, they're in a good deal. But my thing is with Seattle, like they're a good team. They're just streaky, and I don't know what they do at quarterback because I know Geno Smith is not a long-term solution.
Well, that actually lead me to what I was trying to say, and I totally forgot they got eliminated last night. But does Geno Smith, and he has taken them to the playoffs, or Baker Mayfield, who has taken Tampa and won against Philadelphia in the playoffs, and they're going to most likely make the playoffs this year. Sam Darnold, Jared Goff, even though you can make the case now that Jared Goff has played himself back into being a top-tier quarterback, but will those type of quarterbacks make teams realize, hey, wait a minute, we don't have to always pay $7,500 million for what statistically might be a top 10 quarterback, but maybe for whatever reason, they're not making the playoffs consistently. So we can get a Sam Darnold for 2 years at $30 million and then build around him really well and give him Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and a really good running game with Aaron Jones and an underrated defense. And he's going to get us the number 1 seed.
I have a theory for you.
What?
49ers want to keep all their talent, but not pay Purdy what he's worth. Sam Darnold was a backup for them very recently. who's to say that 49ers like, hey, Darnold, 3 years, $25 million a year?
I don't think he leaves Minnesota, but I've thought
And,
about
and I've heard of that too. And I really thought in 2017, Case Keenum was going to be back the next season, and then he went to I think Denver, and then he went back to be mediocre. But I think a lot of people, I think the difference between Case Keenum in 2017 and Sam Darnold in 2024 is I think people think Sam Darnold, this is the guy we all thought he was going to be when he came out of college at USC. I just don't know where he's going to go. And I'm thinking anywhere he goes, it's going to be a downgrade. So it might just be better for J.J. McCarthy, the guy they drafted at Michigan last season or this season, to just sit one more year as he's going to be recovered by next season. But you kind of want Darnold to just play this out and see where Minnesota can go. $10 million for 1 year this season is a great steal for someone that got you to 14 wins.
Yeah.
But
I don't think you keep Darnold if you're just saying, hey, we're going to re-sign you. We want to because he's a free agent. We want to re-sign you for 1 more year. I don't think you keep.
Someone's going to overpay. Yeah, someone will pay him his worth.
A New York Jets, even maybe
going back to the Jets. I don't think Darnold's going to do that.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a completely different staff. I mean, that's not the same Jets that he was at. I'm just saying. My point is if Minnesota tries to lowball him because they think, hey, we have J.J. McCarthy, then I think he's gone. I never thought J.J. McCarthy, again, I'm not saying he can't be a great quarterback, but the number 10 pick, like, really? Like, I saw nothing in college that other than he's a winner. Yeah, that's not a real thing, guys. That's not a real thing, folks.
Look, I can see the attractiveness of the Jets. They got Garrett Wilson. They might have Devontae Adams for next season. I don't know. Let's say they draft that Bowling Green tight end, Harold.
You're big on him. He just announced that he's going pro.
Well, stat-wise, he's fantastic. Of course, he was a finalist for the Mackey Award in college, which goes to the top tight end in college. Ended up going to Tyler Warren at Penn State.
Deserved.
Deserved. They have the Jets have 2 solid running backs, and Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. They do need to address their offensive line, which they kind of did in the offseason this year with drafting Fashanu from Penn State, also Penn State guy, and getting Tyron Smith, who didn't really pan out, but
he's played better of late.
Yeah, but Jets do need to address their offensive issues along the line. Sorry, I'm checking out the Monday night game.
Now, I was just about to say, you're seeing right now as Detroit goes for it on 4th down, why Detroit won't win a Super Bowl with Dan Campbell until he learns to balance that more and not just be like. In fact, there was just an interview an article about it. He reminds me so much of Ron Rivera. Like, it worked for a stretch, and there's nothing wrong with being aggressive on 4th down, but you got to be smart about it.
Like, he was Riverboat Ron for like 1 or 2 seasons, but he was pretty conservative mostly.
Did you get that? I sent you that interview where he talked about that, like why, and he was very open. Like, I realized I was being too conservative and all. And again, I'm more aggressive. Like, I'm a big believer on 4th downs, you go for it, but you got to figure out when. I think that's the one thing Steve Sarkisian does that just frustrates me is I get the idea of going for the throat, but just like in the Clemson game, they had a chance to go up 3 scores and kick the field goal. They didn't. They went for it. They didn't make it. And then Clemson went on a run that it took a 77-yard touchdown run to kind of nail it. You've got to understand when and when not to. And Dan Campbell hasn't figured that out yet. He's still just going for it whenever it's needed. Like right now, it's 21-13. Second, at the end of the half, kick the field goal right there. You make it 21-16. You get rid of that 8-point need now. You go 21-16. You've taken the need to go for 2 off the table later on.
Well, you know what it really is. The problem is his opponent in fantasy football is starting his kicker So he has to make sure his kicker.
Wouldn't
You know that's what it is.
Oh, that'd be so awesome if it came out like years later. Dan Campbell only went for it on fourth downs when he was playing the kickers of the other, you got my kicker. You ain't kicking tonight, Jake.
Yep.
Sorry. All right. Speaking of the Jets, is Aaron Rodgers back next year?
No.
I think he will be.
Okay. Yesterday, they went to Orchard Park to play the Bills. They lost.
No.
40-14.
They didn't lose. I don't think I've ever said this before. That 40-14 did not say how bad they got beat. They gave up 40 points, and Josh Allen only accounted for 2 touchdowns, which really kind of pissed me off because it almost hurt me in our matchup. Like you're thinking, hey, the Bills are going to score 40. I'm getting 50 points from Josh. No, I'm getting 22, but I'm fine with that. But anyway.
Nope.
I'm just saying that could have been a 70-0 game if the Bills wanted it.
Yeah, I really think so too. Aaron Rodgers exited. This was technically his worst game ever. His team didn't score a point. He left Tyrod Taylor, which his first name is pronounced Tyrod. The NFL or the play-by-play guys were saying it wrong. They keep saying Tyrod.
They have always said Tyrod. Yeah, I call him too conservative.
Yeah, but he led the 2 touchdown drives for the Jets at the end of the game. So yeah. Oh yeah. Also, he was the guy that got the Bills into the playoffs in 2017. Now that I'm thinking about it,
the miracle Bills that needed the Bengals, and one of the cool things the Bills do is whenever an opponent helps them, they like fund their charity. Andy Dalton's charity. Wow. The Niners looking like they were just going to roll out the half, going to hit a big play. They're going down the field. But anyway, I think Aaron Rodgers is back, and here's why. I think if it wasn't Aaron Rodgers, he would not have started the season with that Achilles. I think he would have been about week 8 or week 9 before you saw him. I think because it's Aaron Rodgers and because of all that and because of the weird – godlike status he has with a certain set of people now, that I'm magically being healed. No, you're not. Look, dude, you look bad. I don't think the Jets are as far off as they thought. I don't think Saleh should have been fired. I think now if they hire Rex Ryan or Ron Rivera, all bets are off. But let's say the Jets hire Ben Johnson. The Jets are not talentless. I mean,
do you think Ben Johnson would go to the Jets?
Why would you not? You don't get. Look, I know people like it's the same thing when they talk about Dallas. Oh, nobody's gonna go for Jerry Jones. I like what Jason Garrett said. There's only 32 of these jobs. You only have a window where you're guaranteed you will get one. You can be selective for a little while, but at some point you've got to get a head coaching experience because for the most part, everybody allows you one bad run. So if Ben Johnson goes to the Jets and it doesn't work out, most people will be like, hey, it's the Jets, dude. It's not his fault. He'll get his plays. He'll go back to OC for 1 year, and then Dallas will hire him in 2028, and boom, we take off, and Dallas never loses again. See what I did there?
Wink, wink.
Wait, come on, Ben. We'll give you 3 years, buddy. But I people forget that in the whole point of why people were so high on the Jets this year wasn't just Aaron Rodgers. It's because that damn roster is talented. That defense, when motivated, is good. They've got really good offensive players. They need to get rid of Tyron Smith. He can come back to Dallas as a backup. They need to rebuild some of the offensive line. Devontae Adams showed in the last 4 games, I think he's still a viable wide receiver. You're not going to get what you got 2 weeks from him, the 82 catches in 1 game, but I think he can be a 8 to 1,000-yard guy with 8 touchdowns. You've got to finally let Garrett Wilson ascend to the number 1, though. I think even though Garrett Wilson is going to statistically have a good year, I think it's time to let him be the number 1. I don't think the Jets are as far away as people think.
And I think that's my
George
problem
Kittle.
with them because I really feel that Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are going to be the biggest hurdles for Garrett Wilson ascending to the number 1 spot.
You're not wrong on that. I don't disagree with you on that. That's a really good point.
And, yeah, so and that's why I think They need to figure out their roster because I agree with you. Will McDonald the fourth is having a great season, but no one really knows about it because the Jets have been just so putrid.
Hey, are you good for about 20 or 30
Yeah,
more
sure.
minutes?
What's up?
All right. Well, I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something.
I am the champion. I am the champion.
No, actually, what I want to tell you is we're going to take a quick, rare Monday night break because a certain host who might not be African American on the show has to go tinkle. But I want to come back and I want to look at the standings, and we're going to talk about all the teams that haven't made that aren't going to make the playoffs, where they are next year, how close they are. You
Let's
want to
do
do
it,
that?
man. That'd be good.
All right, we'll be right back.
It's football season, and that means it's bug season. Heck, who am I kidding? It's always bug season in Texas. And that's why you need Grandeur Pest Solutions in your corner. They're locally owned and operated. They're trained, they're trustworthy, and they have a proven record as they have been in business for almost 10 years. They provide pest control against ants, bed bugs, bees, roaches, fleas, wasps, mosquitoes, rodents, spiders. If it crawls and you don't like it, they're probably going to take care of it for you. Now, they serve all of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they're locally owned. These two guys have been running this business since 2013, and every year they get bigger and bigger. But you know what they still do? They still have great customer service. In fact, if you get a hold of them, they're usually going to have your quote and your job ready to go within 48 hours. That's pretty good. Now, you can call them for a free estimate at 469-809-1769. You can find them online at Grandeur4, that's the number 4, shore.com. You can also find them on Facebook. Just type in Grandeur Pet Solutions, and we are so happy.
I am the champion. I am the
Wait,
champion.
I don't have my earbuds
But
in. What's
gone
playing now?
is the
Oh, wait, somebody's a
loser,
champion?
'cause I am the champion.
But nobody, we're about to talk to the champion, at least not this year. How you doing, intern?
I was doing good 2 hours in.
By the way, I would like to formally change your name to Noe the Commish.
Okay.
You deserved it. You're a great commissioner. Legitimately, you are. Like, seriously, we were joking about it, and we love the people that are in our league, but a couple of them were in there because we asked them to for the second league because we didn't know if we were going to be able to make it. We started it last year, and you've gone in and you've been very fair with how you've done it. You've built their lineups for them, but you haven't like done pickups or anything like that. But you made sure that they had a full starting lineup because you fairly, and I don't disagree with you, you're like me, you hate incomplete lineups. And the reason I hate incomplete lineups is when you get beat by one, because they have one or two other guys that just go completely off. And a friend of mine lost a championship because the guy had Baker, T. Higgins, and the Buffalo defense, but he also didn't have three other positions. They were IR'd. But that got that dude enough, But anyway, so I think you should become further here. I decree this as
I am the champion.
I decree you, I knight you, intern Noe the commissioner.
Intern Noe the commissioner, so I'm still an intern.
I mean, I'm not saying it's the color of your skin, but there's a reason you'll always be. No, I'm kidding. No, I kind of like intern Noe the commissioner. I like that Noe the commissioner. You could be like the Godfather. Like every week of the draft, we have to come for you to ask you for favors. You asked me this at my daughter's wedding. But anyway, what we're gonna do, we're gonna finish up this show. I'm really having a blast. This has been one of our favorite shows because we get to kind of just talk about what we want to talk about. So we're gonna start in the AFC. Now, we're not going to talk about teams like the Dolphins, who technically are still in, or the Broncos, who technically are still in the playoff race, or even the Bengals. I want to talk about the teams that are really bad or, completely. And the reason I want to bring this up is in our sports group, Sports Rehab, somebody posted Bill Simmons, who I like as a broadcaster and as a sports, I don't even know what you call him. He's not really like he's not a radio host. He has a podcast.
Personality. Yeah, I mean, he's the first guy, honestly, back in '07, the very first time that I had a what was a MP3 player. I would download his show and listen to it when I drove around and doing stuff, and so I like him. And yeah, he's a little pretentious and all, but dude, everybody that does this long enough, you become pretentious. If you get enough of a following, you become pretentious because people listen to you and you start to think, like South Park, your shit don't stink. But he brought up a point that, hey, why would T. Higgins come to the Patriots? Yeah, you've got a decent quarterback, but this team from beginning of the year to the end of the year has gotten worse. And he was basically calling for Jared Mayo to be fired. I don't know if I'd go that far, but one of the sports rehab guys was bringing up, well, yeah, but you can't do that. He's year one and all that. And I get that. And I don't like to fire year one coaches, but I do think there's a point to be made of if you don't improve, then something might need to be done.
Yes. If you don't improve, something needs to be done. That is correct. Okay, I'm gonna say one comment biased and one comment non-biased. Biased, as far as related to the Patriots, I don't want another black coach to be in a crap situation like Steve Wilkes was in 2018 with the Cardinals, and then not get a chance, or Art Shell in his second term with the Raiders and not get a chance in year 2. That will be the same situation with Mayo, but unlike Art Shell and Steve Wilkes, Mayo has his franchise quarterback, in my opinion. I really think Drake May is the real deal. He needs an offensive line and at least 2 skill position players at wide receiver. I think his running game is good enough, but he needs to improve those 2 spots, and I think their offense is good. I already think their defense is good enough to be – I think their defense is playoff worthy. But they need an offensive line and they need skill position players to be able to complement that. So I think the Patriot franchise, they owe it to Mayo to at least build that for him. So I think personally, biasly, he should be the head coach for the year 2.
All right. So what's your non-biased?
Non-biased, they were crap this year. I mean, they were crap this year. They had moments, and the biased side of me is thinking, okay, because they had these moments, then they probably should give Mayo a second season. But unbiased, I'm like, well, they already told you what they need. They might not need a defensive-minded head coach, or they might not need a young rookie head coach. They might need a veteran head coach. I don't know, but this was a terrible team this year, but we knew that going in because of what they did in the offseason. So, yeah. And they're projected to get the number 1 pick at this point because they're definitely going to lose this coming Sunday. They're going to be finished.
And does it not feel like for them, if they do it right, you don't draft with that pick, you trade down with that
Bears
pick,
did a couple years ago. Yeah.
Now I will say this: I think maybe at times we overrate that defense. That defense has given up the. Hang on, let me make sure I read this right. 1, 2, 3, the 4th most points before this season, before this last game, and they're playing the Bill, and
probably nothing to play for.
They have nothing to play for, so you probably won't get like A+, but still. Is that defense as good as we think it is? Because I don't think it is. I think the thing is where I agree with what I think it was Michael Waits that said it, or Watts that said it in the thing. I don't think he deserves to be fired. I think we're realizing that the Patriots are way further away than we thought they were, if that makes sense.
They might be further
I mean,
away.
who's on their defense that you go, hey, that's the dude?
Christian Gonzalez. I think he was great as a rookie last year. He got hurt. This year he's been pretty solid. But yeah, Jabril Peppers. I think he's still really solid.
Yeah, I like Jabril.
Duggar.
Jabril's getting into that age where, I mean, he's not going to be there probably when you're ready to compete again.
Maybe not, but you still need a bridge in between.
He's played 8 years now, hadn't he?
He was my favorite player coming out of college for a while because I saw he was so versatile, and I feel like he never really realized his potential until he got to the Patriots. But then again, like this is a Patriots team that's not
And
really that
even
good.
then, he's been good, not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't think my point is, and again, we're going team by team. We already did the Jets, but the Patriots are not competing next year. Fair or not fair?
I think 7 wins would be a drastic improvement and a sign of positive trajectory. Well, I guess this way. Yeah. So, yeah, if they can get to about 7 wins next season, I think they'll be on the right track. But I already told you everything they need to do to improve that team. Let's see if they actually do it in the offseason.
All right, Raiders 4-12. I think they're worse off than the.
Now that's the team where I think the head coach might have a going concern issue. If I can go back to my accounting background, going concern means I'm not sure if they're going to last another year. So, yeah, and Antonio Pierce, former Giant linebacker, current Raiders head coach, didn't have a good year. He had a great interim year last season and led the Raiders to an 8-9 season, but this hasn't been good. And to his credit, they didn't really do anything to really help him. They lost Josh Jacobs. They really didn't address that issue. They lost Carr the year prior. They didn't really do anything to address the quarterback situation. Don't tell me Gardner Minshew was the.
Oh no! I mean, O'Connell's been starting what for the last month now?
Minshew's been out for the year, so.
I think that's. But I mean, even before that, they were going back and forth. I think that might be the only the one thing that saves Antonio Pierce, unless Antonio Pierce in the offseason was like, we're good. We don't need a quarterback. We got the. I think that. Man, that's a good point though, because I go back to it's not like Antonio Pierce had a great coaching resume going in. Like, I mean,
he wasn't even a coordinator before he got the job. I think he was a positional coach.
Exactly. Are you taking, if Ben Johnson tells you, hey, I'd love to come to the Raiders, are you taking Pierce or Ben Johnson?
Without a doubt.
Hell, if Kellen Moore. I mean, we all joke about Kellen Moore here in Dallas, but it's not like Kellen Moore had terrible offense.
He did a smart thing and adjusted the offense to where they were more run heavy too. Because they were struggling trying to just put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands and trying to make him more of a gunslinging, pass-happy offense. But when he realized they were stronger just running the ball because they had a really good offensive line that could, run against teams, then they started doing that, and they have a 2,000-yard running back now who can break the all-time record next week. So I will give him credit for not being stubborn and sticking to his style of play and switching it up. So that's a mark of a really good head coach. And you and I both noticed that with Kellen Moore in Dallas, like that he had the makings of a halfway decent head coach.
I think his time in Dallas he gets unfairly knocked for things that the head coach, who both times, whether it was Garrett or McCarthy, were offensive guys, so he kind of had to bend what he wanted to do to them and all that. All right, let's move on to what I think's the most interesting team, because this is a guy that I have defended and I still like him, but the Cleveland Browns. Look, I know Deshaun Watson didn't work out and all, but they're still 3-13. That team should not be 3-13. And we can make the jokes about Jameis Winston. And dude, I get it. You know this. Part of the reason I love Jameis Winston is he'll throw you 6 touchdowns or he'll throw you 6 interceptions. But is it getting to be with Kevin Stefanski? It's not you, it's us. But we've got to make a change because your message has gotten stale.
And the easiest thing to do is to change the head coach instead of.
Always easier than to change the players, especially when you've got still a really talented roster. You've got Judy. I think it's fair to say that maybe Nick Chubb, unfortunately, he's just going to be one of those that
coulda, woulda, shoulda. If I'm them, I don't know if next year I'm like, hey, Chubb, you're going to be number 2. Jerome Ford will be number 1. Hell, Jerome Ford got hurt last week as well. You got Judy. You got David Njoku, who's still young enough. You've got Myles Garrett in a defense that should be better. Now, I think Stefanski this year will get you've got to fire coordinators. You got one more year. But if they're going to hang that Deshaun Watson albatross on him, I think the Browns have got to make that move. And I know that they're going to get the benefit because I don't care what anybody says. Deshaun Watson is not going to be ready for week 1. He tore that Achilles way too late. But I just think the Browns need to I think they need to cleanse the soul and just cut him outright. And if this idea that they're going to tell to him, like, you're still the number 1 guy as soon as you're healthy, then I think Cleveland's going to be in the same situation.
Yeah, so it really just depends on what they want to do. Like they want to just bite the bullet and just get rid of Watson like the Broncos did and turn to positive results. Or they just stick with him and say, hey, we already paid for him. Let's just see what he can do. I think they should do what the Broncos did. But that doesn't still address all their issues. Mostly, I think it's on the offensive side. Now, I'm not sure if Jim Schwartz should be retained as defensive coordinator for the Broncos or the Browns, but
I mean, again, they're one of those that we want to say, hey, they've got Myles Garrett, and it's sad. I feel bad for Myles Garrett. He's having a great year, but again, we want to say, oh, it's the offense. But again, their defense is giving up 400 points. They're tied with the Patriots on the exact amount of points. But I agree with you. I think Stefanski has to fire coordinators.
That might be the best solution. Get rid of Dorsey. Dorsey is not qualified to be an offensive coordinator. He failed at Buffalo. He's failing with the Browns.
Well,
no, I mean I
don't think he failed
at 2 stops. Joe Brady unlocked something in Josh Allen that we have not seen.
But Joe Brady didn't have to deal with Stephon Diggs. I mean, for a full season. I know you know what I mean. And I'm not. And by the way, I don't mean that as a knock on Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, if you wanted to put him on the ladder of diva wide receivers, he's below Michael Irvin. Like, seriously, he's below Chad Johnson, all that. But for Josh Allen, I think we've learned that he is one of those quarterbacks. I think Patrick Mahomes is the same way. He needs to be able to use the whole field. Do you realize the Bills just broke a record with the most everybody having touchdown passes on their team in the history of their franchise? And we're talking about back when they had the K gun and they used to spread the ball all around.
That was what that became a household name.
Exactly. And so, and I know they did it when Trubisky threw it to some random dude named Johansson.
So, okay.
Yeah, it was a different guy with a touchdown.
So
that's pretty cool.
With Diggs, I kind of put him in between Michael Irvin and I guess Terrell Owens would be the middle. Yeah, Michael Irvin, Terrell Owens, Irvin, Owens, and then Diggs.
Wait, on the diva scale?
If I had just an arbitrary scale. So Irvin is the type of guy, he has the work ethic. That's what makes him the diva. But his sole purpose is winning a Super Bowl and winning.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. That was the difference with him.
He does not care about getting 11 catches for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. He could get 1 catch for 5 yards as long as they win because he's going to put forth the effort. He'll run block. He'll run block the crap out of it, and he'll be the best at it.
Well, even going back to the famous Alvin Harper catch in San Francisco, Irvin was like, they've been throwing the other route all day, so I'm going to switch with him. And it still went to Harper, and it worked. But Irvin was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I don't think we get that. And Aikman said it too, but Irvin said, I don't think we get that same look. It worked. I don't think Terrell Owens needed to win to be the guy to win.
So for me, the way I interpreted Owens was he felt him getting a lot of stats, him getting a lot of looks would lead to his team winning 100% of the time.
Yeah.
No matter what. In his soul, he felt that. And to me, that's why he felt that he needed to get the ball, not because of selfish reasons, because he felt that he was the best person on the field, which for most of his career he was. And him getting the ball increased his team's chances of winning that game.
Yeah.
And then Stephon Diggs, I really don't think he cares about winning and losing. Respect.
Sterling Sharp.
Oh man,
That is
and we have talked about that not on the show, but we have talked about Sterling Sharp and his alleged not caring about winning, just getting stats. Like Nightcap is such a popular show right now, and then Shannon Sharp, he has changed his style of post career. Commenting.
I love his shows, dude. I love his stuff.
But if you like, the thing is, though, he passionately believes that his brother should be a Hall of Famer,
and I totally agree with him.
Even though you said that like he was just all about like stats and not about winning, and
the Hall of Fame should be about stats. I'm sorry. The worst thing that the Football Hall of Fame did, and to understand the Football Hall of Fame, I think their first class was like what, 1968 or 69, something like that.
Yeah, something in the 60s. Yeah.
And so they did things like, let's put all the Steelers in because they won 4 Super Bowls. Let's put all the Packers in because they won 7 championships and they won, the first 2 Super Bowls and all that. The problem with that is that you made an individual accomplishment be a team-only thing. Baseball gets it right. Baseball does it right. Baseball is, hey, look, if you win, that's awesome, and that should have value. But, dude, if you're the best player, you're the best player. You're a Hall of Famer. I don't want to talk about steroids and all that. I'm just talking about, like, on the value of, like, people like Gaylord Perry makes a Hall of Fame, and he won no playoff game, nothing like that. Nolan Ryan won a World Series, but it was in 1969 when he was a reliever. He made the Hall of Fame because he was a great player. The NFL Hall of Fame tried to make it too much because it was all new, and so they were just throwing people in. It's the same reason why Gale Sayers does not make the Hall of Fame now with the same career. Terrell Davis, you can make the case, and Terrell Davis was the best running back for 4 years, but 4 years should not make a Hall of Fame.
Even though one of those years was a 2,000-yard year.
Great year. Freaking amazing. Yeah. I don't have a problem with Terrell Davis being in the Hall of Fame. I want people to understand that. But I'm also saying if you actually look at him, well, okay, if you're going to put him in the Hall of Fame, well, then Frank Gore definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
16,000 yards, number 3 all time.
Yes, and so the NFL has always had that issue where they try too hard to make and it's honestly, it's what's driven this whole quarterback thing, where a guy can't make the Hall of Fame unless you're Dan Marino or Fran Tarkenton, and even then, there's people that will say, well, they really shouldn't be in. Fran Tarkenton lost 4 Super Bowls, blah, 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 blah.
I hate that so much because these idiots try to make a team sport an individual thing.
Exactly.
And that is not what NFL is. That's not what football is.
They make an individual award become a team thing. And I'm not saying that people that were very, very important to championships shouldn't get in.
Yeah.
But the idea of when you look, and the weird thing with the NFL, it's only quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
It's only quarterbacks. But I do think the thing that hurts Sterling Sharp is the longevity. I can understand that. He got hurt 4 years too early. But I will tell this to people that don't understand. And if you weren't alive, and I'm even saying this to you because you didn't watch all of the Dallas Cowboys from 90 through, there was a time that Michael Irvin and Sterling Sharp were better wide receivers than Jerry Rice. I'm sorry. Go look at the stats. Michael Irvin from 1991 to 1995 was top 3 in almost everything other than touchdowns. That's always been his one knock. And we joke about that and everything. And he always says that he got Emmitt Smith a Hall of Fame because he kept getting tackled at the 1-yard line. But, I mean, Sterling Sharp was freaking amazing. But it's also okay to acknowledge that, hey,
I don't know if Green Bay wins the Super Bowl if Sterling Sharp is healthy all through the 90s because they became a better offense when Donald Driver, Robert Brooks, Keith Jackson, and all of them were able to cook. And you weren't needing to feed the ball to one guy for nine catches a game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, with Antonio Freeman and the company, Andre Rison for that season, Keith Jackson, like you said. Diversity really helped the Packers because Brett Favre.
Sorry. Mario Scott's in the chat. He said the NFL is about if you can't tell the story of the NFL without them, then they are in. That's a good point. And there's some validity to that if you can't tell the story of the league without a player. But I love his next one. The poster boy we're talking about is Eli Manning. He doesn't have the stats, but he has the greatest story. Now, I will be fair to Eli. I'm always amazed at how good his passing stats actually are. Like, I always have that in my mind, but you go look at his stats. He's got some pretty good stats. Like, he's top 10 and all. But you're right. He's going to get in because they beat the Patriots twice. He was the Super Bowl MVP of both of them, even though you could make the case that he might not should have been. He had great games, though. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I think that we'll see. That is a great point, Mario. We will see with this Hall of Fame class. I don't know if Eli Manning gets in, but I can also see him being a first ballot Hall of Famer as well.
Wins 2 Super Bowls. Now, I know the Jim Plunkett
argument. Outside of those,
he did not win a playoff game outside of those.
Finished with a 500 record.
And I think he threw as many touchdowns as he did interceptions.
I think
so. So, I mean, the fact that I even said that, and in your mind you kind of registered it as, oh yeah, he probably did.
Mm-hmm.
It says everything we need to hear. So, yeah, he'll be in the Hall of Fame.
When Jameis Winston makes the Hall of Fame, he will not have a lot of
when?
Well, actually, wow, Eli. See, again, I will admit he threw 366 touchdowns.
Okay.
He threw 244 interceptions.
Okay.
Not bad. But okay, let's do this. Thank you, Mario. This is why we like you. So let's look at this. Eli, 236 games. Okay, keep these. You're an accountant. Keep these numbers. 117 and 117. Okay, 60% completion. 57,000 yards, 366 touchdowns, 244 interceptions. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to pretend like you're not going to know who I'm about to say their stats, but I'm going to say this anyway. Okay, hang on. Let me go back. So, again, Eli had 236 games. Wow, that's crazy. In 80 less games, this quarterback was 78 and 49. 65% completion, 34,000 yards, 248 touchdowns, and 117 interceptions. You know what I'm talking about, right? Tony Romo.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, those numbers are 100% comparable. What's the difference? The Giants won 2 Super Bowls, including upsetting 07 Cowboys in the first or second round. Tony Romo will never, I won't say never. I do think Romo might actually in because he's a broadcaster and his face, he's relevant. And I think I could see and also outside of Drew Bledsoe, who has a weird hate for him, all the people of Tony Romo's generation talk about like how great he was. Peyton Manning the other night on the Monday night thing where him and Eli, they were bringing up, they showed I think they showed the Peyton Manning, the bootleg against the Cowboys in 2013. And he was talking about it. And he goes, I just want to say this, like, Tony Romo was so much better than people will ever realize at quarterback. And Eli was like, yeah, I agree. I think that might eventually get him in the Hall of Fame when he's like 80. But Tony Romo had Hall of Fame numbers. But he will never get in on just those because he didn't win the big game.
Yeah, I think he'll get in as a color commentator, but yeah, I don't think
I think he'll get in as a quarterback, but I think it'll be, like I said, like thousands.
Oh, I don't think he'll get in as a quarterback.
I think the veteran committee will put him in.
That'll be as a color commentator. That is what I think.
Maybe. I mean, I guess that wouldn't be a bad thing either. But anyway, oh yeah, we were talking about teams we think are going to be better. All right, so let's continue.
Damn you, Mario Scott, for diverting us.
Before that. All right, so here's 3 teams that are. I mean, it's the AFC South outside of the Texans, even though we could technically have the same discussion with the Texans. The Colts 7-9, the Jaguars 4-12, the Titans 3-13. I gave you a hard time because you weren't wrong about this, but I gave you a hard time because you're like, the Titans outside of their quarterback should be better, yet they weren't. And I don't know, the Titans feel like, as much as I give, what's his name that was the head coach?
Vrabel.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel. As much as I give him a hard time, let's be fair. Mike Vrabel's era was a good era for the Titans, but the 5 years before and now, the Titans have been a terrible franchise. And Mario Scott will know this because he's a huge fan of the Titans.
You know, they had the 2017 season where they won at Kansas City. And from 2019 to 2021, they were one of the top teams in the AFC. Well, really until the second half, for the first half of 2022. So from 2019 to the first half of 2022, they were one of the top 5 teams in the AFC.
Which in the NFL, that's a long time. All jokes aside, I mean, if you get a 3-year run, 4-year run, dude, you take that.
Ever since that second half in 2022, they just haven't been good. But no, I loved everything they did in the offseason. They got Pollard, which I like, to pair with Tajay Spears. They drafted Skoronski last year, and they kind of also improved their offensive line a little bit. They got Awuzie in secondary. They got they got all these little parts to that defense and the offense. So I was thinking maybe, and then they get drafted, or not drafted. They got in free agency Mason Rudolph to be a solid backup. I'm like, everything looks good here except for and then Calvin Ridley. Sorry. I really thought Levis would take a step in year 2, but it just didn't happen. So that was my thing. I was thinking this team can win 10 games, but I was hinging that on Levis having more weapons around him and having a defense that will protect him when he messes up. But no, Levis went full tard and just started like throwing some weird passes, and man, it did not go the way I thought it would. And I wish I could talk to August 2024 Noe, because he would have like slapped him across. Today's Noe would have slapped him across the face. I'm like, no.
Well, let's be fair. Will Levis is what Josh Allen could have been.
Oh.
I mean, they were like the same guy, athletic, cannon of an arm, didn't have the resume. Let's see what they do. But my point is you go back all the way back, and I'll say this, Jeff Fisher, I still hate you. I think you screwed Vince Young out of a really good career. But let's go back to 2008. That they were 13-3. That's the game they lost to the Ravens, and that just slugfest. Those two teams were just, swinging at each other. It was a great game. But since then, 8-8, 6-10, 9-7, 6-10, 7-9, 2-14, 3-13. Mike Mularkey had that weird ass year where they got him to the playoffs and they lost, and then you brought in the Mike Vrabel. And so from 2018 and 2, they were 9-7, 9-7, 11-5, 12-5. And then they fire him 7-10, 6-11. So outside of 2017 to 2022 or 2021, this has not been a well-run franchise. They haven't. Their drafting shows that. And yeah, they built a solid roster if you already had your quarterback in place and if you already had 3 other pieces in place and you just needed some depth guys, but they signed depth guys to be starters.
Which I thought they got the quarterback. And I thought it was a good move to get the backup quarterback.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a fair point. It just didn't. Well, I don't know. Is it over? I don't know. Maybe with I mean, do you, Mario, if you're still listening, what if you're a Titans fan? What do you do at quarterback next year? Do you hand the ball to Levis and go, hey, we're giving you 17 games, win us?
I think that test was done this season, and they're in position to get a good quarterback if they so choose. I'm just saying they can get Cam Ward, they could get a Shador, they can wait a little bit while and get a Dylan Gabriel or Carson Beck and later if they're willing to wait for him to recover from his surgery.
I think Carson. I don't see. Again, I think this is a really bad year.
Outside of two quarterbacks, it's a bad year.
And I don't even know. I'm not 100% on either one of those either. And I think they both could be great. Don't get me wrong, but I definitely don't see. That's a for sure guy for this year. Maybe that's why I'm saying if you're what is your where are they going to finish?
3 and 3rd. I think they're
going to get third or fourth.
Well,
pick?
right now they're the second worst in the AFC, so that's at least right behind the Patriots. Number 3 because number 2 because the Giants screwed the pooch by winning. So I think the Giants lost the tiebreaker with the Titans and Patriots. So the Patriots have the 1, Titans have the 2, and Giants have the 3.
Mario says keep Levis or a bridge quarterback. We need an O-line. What if you threw some money at Sam Darnold?
How much though? Because you still want to get him at a bargain. You don't want to pay him $50 million.
I don't think
he won 14 games this year with the Vikings.
And let's see. I mean, he's 27. I mean,
he did have mono.
Huh?
And then he ended up beating the Cowboys the very first game. But semantics.
Why do we have to bring that up?
Because it's hilarious.
5 years, $200 million,
$40 million a year. That's a bargain in 2025 NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I would do that at 27 years old. I mean, now again, if he and hey, maybe this actually helps you. If he goes out in game 1 of the playoffs, those 5 interceptions, maybe you get him at 5 years for $170 million. Or a Brock Purdy. Let's say San Francisco lets him walk.
Man, I really doubt the 49ers are going to let Purdy walk unless Purdy wants Dak Prescott money.
I think that's going to be the most interesting case study because it's 2 things. A, Brock Purdy is a dude that I love that we all assume that. Maybe he's like, I want to be the first $300 million guy. But assuming that Brock's not that way, but then aren't you kind of bucking up against, you and I have talked about this for 3 years now, the Kyle Shannon, just give me a quarterback and a running back and I'll win you games. So I mean, maybe there's San Francisco being
until they actually win the Super Bowl, you cannot say this system works. Although I like this system, I like the Shanahan system. I have to be honest with myself. As much as I love it, until it actually wins the Super Bowl, I can't fully say this is the way to go.
See, I think, okay. I'm sorry. Breaking news. LeBron James says at 40, he thinks he's going to play 5 to 7 more years.
Oh, he's waiting for his youngest son, the real star, to pop up in the NBA. Okay.
No, he's like, Mama, we're making another kid today. He's going to play with me in 18 years. I think
so LeBron and I are born the same year. But I was born in March. He's born late December.
Can you go play 82 basketball?
I could play 5 minutes.
Okay, I remember, and this is not just a knock on you; it's a knock on me too. I remember 2 times. Once at the South Fork Ranch, you and I were kicking and throwing the football around, and then I remember this random time we ended up at LA Fitness playing basketball with Robert from Elysian Fields, and both of us the next day. And sadly, this was like 12 years ago. We were in our 30s. We were like, "Yeah, that took too much out of me. I'm done."
You and I are both in better shape now than we were then.
That's a good
We need
point.
to run it
actually.
back,
We really
as the
are.
kids
I don't
say.
know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
We'll probably have to get our grades.
I'll run it back on
Green
Live
grades.
09. But anyway, I just thought that was funny about LeBron. All right, so let's keep doing this. So okay, so we talked the Titans. We kind of figured that. Jaguars. They are the team that, in my opinion, is a good coach. Ben Johnson. I know I keep saying his name a lot. I feel
That's
like,
no. Stop. That is it. Even though I have issues with the Khan family, both in the Jaguars organization and the wrestling organization with
especially the
AEW,
wrestling.
I have no idea. So my problem with the Jaguars is not to do with the players or coaching. It has to do with the management. I am worried that a good coach could go there and it's not going to work because of that management. Having said that, I like Brian Thomas Jr. at wide receiver. He's a top 5 wide receiver this year, yards wise. They have 2 solid running backs in Travis Etienne and what was the guy's name?
Tank Bigsby.
Yeah, Bigsby. And they have a solid tight end and Ingram, who's out for the year, but they have they have Strange, who was a rookie they drafted. I think they have enough talent there. They, like, to your point, they need the right coach but it needs to be an offensive minded coach. So that is the rub. And I want Ben Johnson to go to a place like this, but I'm worried about the man. That's the same issue I have with Ben Johnson going to the Bears. I think that there's talents there, but I don't really trust Poles and
That's a good question because I don't disagree with you, but I think for different reasons. I don't think Poles and the Bears front office like try to mess things up or anything. I just think that they just, I don't know, there's something there.
Well, I don't think they try to. I just think they do.
Okay, that's it. Maybe they're just like, whatever. We're the Bears. We're gonna still rake in $500 million a year. Blah blah blah. But with the Jaguars, I feel like Khan is the guy that everybody thinks that Jerry Jones is. And I'm not saying Jerry Jones doesn't, stick his finger in the pie, but I think that gets overrated. I think I've always said this to you. My biggest issue with Jerry is he's the last man that tells him something. That's who he listens to. And so, like, he'll get 10 different things going into a meeting, but the last one is like, that's what we got to go with. With Khan, I legitimately think Khan is basically the George Steinbrenner of the NFL. He's just not in the press as much about it. And so I agree with you there. But now, if he steps back, I mean, I just feel like the Titans are that team that easily could go, because I mean, this is a team that made the playoffs 2 years ago. And yeah, I know the Chargers were beating them for a half, but they came back and beat the Chargers. I don't know how that game isn't more epically talked about. Like, that is one of the biggest collapses in playoff history. And I think you and I even said this when it happened. Think if that would have been the Cowboys. Holy crap, we would still not hear the end of it.
The memes. Oh, Lions did something. Oh, it was a flag. Never mind. It's 28-24 49ers in the third quarter.
Yeah, this game is exactly what we thought it would be. I mean, when you've got the Niners, they have nothing more to play for, and they don't need a high draft pick. They're not, again, well, let's go ahead and switch over there. The Niners are in the playoffs next year. This was a weird year. This was a bump. This is, as long as they're not stupid.
This is a typical Shanahan injury-prone year. This is 2017 49ers. This is 2018 49ers. This is 2020 49ers. The years that they're not this injury-prone, they're in the NFC title game minimum.
Yep.
Or the Super Bowl. So, yeah, this team is fine. But
yeah, exactly. And they're going to be the team that he'll be coach of the year next year because they'll have such a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
All right, so let's
some people think he'll be fired. No, he's not going to be fired because he's fired. 31 teams in the NFL are going to be wanting to sign him. And a lot of them have good coaches, but they would rather have Kyle Shanahan.
Okay, so I know we keep bringing him up, but what if Ben Johnson says, hey, I want to be your coach?
Ooh. I think they have to do it.
And by the way, Ben Johnson could absolutely flame out. 'Cause, hey, guess what, folks? North Turner was the offensive genius in 1992 and 93. And holy crap, look what he can do. And then you put him on a team with average talent and you go, oh, wait,
And they
that
actually
sucks.
became good. Hey,
And
the 99 Redskins, now the Commanders.
well, yeah, but it took him 5 years before
They
that
didn't
happened.
have the quarterback until then.
Back when you could get 5 years and be crappy for half those times. I miss that era. I miss, and I know we said it earlier. We talked about, Jared Mayo being fired. I do think every coach should at least get 2 years. I mean, unless you're Urban Meyer and you're just a retard. I'm not supposed to say that. Sorry, I didn't mean to say Urban. But let's go ahead and talk about it. Cowboys, they're going to miss the playoffs. They're going to probably go 7-10. I don't really see them winning next week against Washington. I don't think Dallas has to make as many changes as people think. Again, I said it earlier. I think Dallas is perfectly aligned with the right draft, health at the right position, and all that to be back into playoff contention next year.
Yes, I really think they're not far away. And I think not making the playoffs has kind of let the Cowboys experiment and look at other players. And we kind of seen some defensive stars show up lately and prove that maybe they might be pieces for next year. And then on offense, I've really been impressed with Jalen Tolbert. I think he's a receiver that we had questions on, but I think he kind of answered those questions after Dak got hurt, after all the other players got hurt. So I really think that Dallas is in a good position going into 2025.
The last time that Dak had a season-ending year, it kind of did the same thing. We saw that, hey, this team isn't as bad as people say. They weren't great, but you saw the evolution of CeeDee Lamb as a rookie. You saw the evolution of some offensive linemen and some defensive guys. And everybody thought especially because, again, just like 2020, just like 2010, we always say it, everybody goes, oh, well, they'd have made the playoffs if Romo wouldn't have got hurt. Yeah, that team wasn't that good even before he got hurt. The team wasn't that good before Dak got hurt this year. But like you said, you saw people having to play positions that they weren't, expected. And I think we've seen some good things. I really would like for them to think about kicking Tyler Guyton to right tackle, Tyler Smith to left tackle, and then figure out your guards in the draft and free agencies. And if Zach's healthy one more year, I have no problem rolling with Zach one more year. I think that's perfectly fine. But I think that they figured out some things that they can go forward. Now, I have to ask you, does this staff survive this?
Will the staff be the same in 2025? Yes. I think they did enough to impress Jerry, to keep McCarthy one more year. It'll be a 1-year deal, and it'll be an all-in part 2. Hashtag part.
I think it'll be a 2-year deal because I think you listen to Stephen Jones a couple weeks ago saying, 2025 is going to be another tighten the belt year. I think Dallas, right or wrong, basically was punting on this year and next year anyway. Now, I think next year with a healthy Dak and the right draft picks, they can still be competitive. But I think that Dallas feels like we're going to get Dak signed. They did. We got Lamb signed. They did. We'll sign Parsons. And then we're going to have a bunch of rookie contracts in 2026. And that's when we take off. But again, I go back to, I think you also make a call to Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
And I'll say this. I think there's going to be a coach or two that might be fired that we're not expecting, Mike McDaniel.
No, he's too ingrained in that Miami culture. He's not going to get fired.
I mean, the Miami culture is they either don't make the playoffs or they don't win in the playoffs. I mean, what culture?
I think they like him too much. He ain't going nowhere.
I don't know, man.
But then, like,
I think it's very possible.
Honestly, like, if Mike McDaniel gets fired by the Dolphins, I don't think he goes anywhere for a while. Like, I think he has to go back down to even college level. He's kind of a unique situation. Like, it was kind of a.
I could actually see him doing the John Madden where he goes into broadcasting and he never coaches again.
Man, but at least Madden won a Super Bowl and went to a bunch of AFC title games.
Oh no, I know, but I'm just saying we can all admit that that John Madden had 10 more years easy at coaching, if not longer, if he wanted to.
Oh yeah,
Like,
he Madden was young when he retired. Like McDaniel, like my two issues with him was he never really implemented the tight end position until later on, aka the second half of 2024, aka this season. And he really never protected his quarterback as he should have.
I agree with the second. I think the tight end thing. I mean, I love a tight end position, but I think that's
only because. Okay. I see what you're saying, and different offenses emphasize different positions. He purposely said last season that he needed to unlock the next level of this offense by adding the tight end position to it.
You're right about that.
So
that's a good point.
That's the reason why I'm saying that. Not because of my bias toward that position, because backtrack. I love that position because they're too fast for linebackers. The really good ones. They're too fast for linebackers. They're too big for safeties. So they're a matchup nightmare. So if it was me constructing a team from scratch, I would definitely have a Kittle, a Gronkowski, one of those,
Aaron Hernandez.
One of those guys I was just slash through that defense. Too soon?
Pride. No, I mean, it's never too soon. Well, we got to, speaking of, one of the things we're going to do in the off season is we're going to review that Aaron Hernandez movie because I finally watched that this past weekend. Oh my God. Hey, I'll put you this. Hey, the Kurt Warner movie is better.
Oh, come on.
By a lot.
We went to the theater to watch that crap. And Lions score a touchdown to take the lead.
Who scored?
I don't know. Amon-Ra, the sun god.
I don't know, man. I just feel like Dallas is either going to bounce back or we're about to go into a 2 or 3 year window. And I don't want to be that because one thing you and I have talked about before, Dallas has done such a good job since about 2014 of being consistently a playoff team.
And is that good enough?
And I know no, but I mean, you can't. It's the same. It's the thing I always say. Like people say, "Oh, you gotta get rid of Dak. He can't win." You're not guaranteed to get somebody better. You've got to when you make those moves like that. You've got to make sure either you know what you're doing or like Minnesota, you get lucky because I don't think anybody thought, hey, we're getting Sam Darnold. Here comes the number 1 seed, folks.
All right. So are you okay with 12-5 and not getting past the divisional round? Or was you?
I'm not okay with it. But you got to get 12-5
but that's the scenario. Like, are you okay with that? Or do you want to just go ahead and just be crappy and then be more hopeful for a draft pick?
You can't do that because you signed the quarterback to the deal you did.
That is 100% true. Yeah. Given Dak this contract, I agree with you. You're saying that we're competing right now. We're going to be a top 5 team for the next 4 years of this contract. There's no other reason why you would sign a quarterback to that deal if you weren't going to try to build a team around him. I 100% agree with you on that.
So that's the issue, dude. And that's what's so frustrating about this year. And I get it. I know people like to say it. I've gotten tired of hearing it because we all realize 2 weeks later he said something in the moment, but the whole all-in thing will always that will be the thing people remember. But I don't know, man. With Stephen Jones coming out 2 weeks ago saying, "Oh, it's 2025 is going to be tough as well," I'm not understanding why. Like, why can other teams sign 2 or 3 guys to big deals and be fine, and then Dallas say, and this is not a money issue. This isn't like Dallas, that the owners don't have the money. It's let's be fair. They act like they figured out the salary cap, and they didn't. They signed CD and Dak too late. It wasn't that they signed them. It's when they signed them. You signed them in March. Dude, we get it. This is what you want. CD Lamb, here's your money. Now let's adjust and go. And I feel like they're going to do the same thing with Micah Parsons. Actually, I hate to say this, I think Dallas ends up trading Micah Parsons, and I don't want that. I don't believe in trading Hall of Fame talent. You want to go look at Micah Parsons this year, and I know he started slow, but look how he finished the year, and look how the defense played when he got back. And how all of a sudden this defense that gave up 40,000 yards a game, and I know yesterday, but that's just but gave up 40,000 yards a game, all of a sudden became a defense that held Joe Burrow and Baker Mayfield and people like and Jaden Daniels, and made them look human. Yet I think they're going to freaking trade him, and you never trade Hall of Fame talent. You will never get the value unless you hit home runs with the picks, and I just don't believe that's going to happen either.
Yeah, I don't believe that either. I kind of see your point with Parsons might get traded. I don't want it to happen, but I also don't want the Cowboys to overpay for another player. Like, I like CD, I like Dak, and it might not. It might have been market value, but for me, I want to build a team. I don't want to build stars. I want.
But you can't do that. You're not going to win without stars. Name a team in the last 1,000 years of the NFL that's won without stars. That's won a Super Bowl without stars.
No one's not, but I'm not saying that. Like, let me clarify. Don't focus your offseason or your team building on just stars alone.
Yeah.
Which, to me, you might disagree, but to me, that's what the Cowboys have done. They've been focused on stars that they neglect building depth, building an entire roster, building a team around these stars to accentuate their positives. They're up here, but if you have a really good team, you can put them, up here. They don't. From my watching of the Cowboys, they don't do that. It almost feels like, okay, we got that star. We got a couple of spots here, so we're settled. We're just gonna rest on the laurels and just see what happens.
So
no team in history has ever been able to win a Super Bowl on that philosophy. They've had stars, but they've also had a complete team.
So I feel like I get what you're saying, but I think what Dallas did after last year, I didn't have a lot of problems with it. They said, hey, we keep rolling out the same ball and we go 12-5 but get beat in the first round, so we need to change things. Now, I don't like the changes that they made necessarily. Like the Ezekiel Elliott, just stupid. Like it didn't make sense in the moment because you're like, wait a minute, he's not done anything with New England. But I had no problem getting rid of Tyron Smith. Dude, great. You're awesome, but you haven't got us past the second round. Sorry, dude. Let's move on. Yep. But I think legitimately this year or in the offseason, I think they got vaginal hubris. They thought, hey, we're gonna keep finding these diamonds in the rough. Tyler Smith we hit on when everybody said we wouldn't, so let's get Tyler Guyton. And I'm not saying Tyler Guyton can't be a fine offensive line, but the dude had never played left tackle. So you're telling me if you've never played left tackle, let's now throw you in the most important position on the offensive line as a rookie, and you're going to be great because Tyler Smith was great. You can't do that. And I'm not saying Tyler Guyton's going to be a bad pick. I think if they kick him out to right tackle, he'll be great. But I just feel like they bought into their hubris of, we draft offensive linemen and they work out and they're all pros and blah, blah, blah. And so I see what you're saying, but I think I think they went the exact opposite. I think they went 2 non-stars outside of, they went 2 with these guys and not let's go get a free agent. And I know the history of free agency in the NFL is very up or down. The high-paying guys usually don't actually match their contract, but there was guys you could get that were good value signings that they wouldn't even go get. That's why I disagree with you. I don't think they sold out too much on the stars. In fact, I think they didn't go after enough of those. I'm sorry. Why the fuck did they not get Derrick Henry? That makes no effing sense. There is no world that Jerry Jones will ever be able to well, he probably wouldn't have ran as much in it. No, you're right. He would only ran for 1,600 yards. Oh, darn. And I mean, Rick Waddle, love him, but the dude's going to hit 1,000 yards with a shitty offensive line and no Dak.
Think if they had actually Derrick Henry.
That's my point. So that's where I disagree with you. I don't think they went stars. I think they went the exact opposite. They tried to go too much. Oh, we get value because that's what we do. We've done that for 10 years. The last big signing we've made is Brandon Carr. We haven't done anything big like that, and look how good we've been. Like, no, dude, like, fuck it. Just swing for the fence one time. Just give me 1 year where you say, you know what? We're going to balls to the wall. We're going to sign as many of the big stars as we can, and let's see what happens. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But this whole it's almost like they're in the in-between right now. It's like Stranger Things. They're in the upside-down world. They can't decide what they want to do. They go left for a couple seasons. They go, oh, that didn't work. Let's go right now. Well, no, fucking stick to something for once, please.
Jake Moody's about to attempt a 58-yard field goal with 13:30 left in the fourth quarter.
I hate that Aubrey.
It is no good.
I hate that Aubrey missed that one off the uprights yesterday for 61.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
The distance was good, but he just wasn't able to make it. All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'm just going to keep watching this fourth quarter. This is a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. I wasn't sure how the 49ers would respond. I figured since they were eliminated, they might be a little listless. And then with the Lions also not having anything to play for this particular week, I figured it'd be like a Seattle-Chicago game where it'd be like 6-3 or just something really boring. But this has been very entertaining.
I think the one thing you can give Campbell and Shanahan credit for, and both of their teams, they have a bunch of guys that just love to play football.
Yeah.
And so I kind of thought we'd get something like this because, Lions aren't going to show much. And, again, I still contend their defense isn't really that good. That's going to be what's going to hurt them when, Green Bay out of the 5th seed ends up going to the Super Bowl or something like that. Dude, I forgot. I wanted to tell you one thing.
I am the champion. I am the champion. But go.
1.
I am the champion.
2. And a third league that's not in our league.
I am the champion.
You supposed to win that?
Oh, yeah, I won that one yesterday.
Oh, congratulations. So 7 leagues, 3 championships.
And 4 championship games.
Congratulations.
We always joke, but I'm not I do to you personally, like we have fun, but I'm not a big bragger. I don't pat myself on the back a lot, but if I didn't love sports so much, I probably would retire from fantasy football this year because this is my best year. This is legitimately my best year of fantasy football. I mean, I've won multiple championships before and all that. And I told you the 1 year I went completely undefeated, but that was, or 2 years actually. But you were following that league because I'd show you it was like the worst people ever. It was like Grant would have been the best drafter outside of me, at one point. I mean, this was 2017 and 2018. And, I've got like Ezekiel Elliott and Derrick Henry, and it was terrible drafting. This has been my best fantasy football year. So next year I will win nothing and I will hate the world, but I will go back to
I am the champion.
It's the Hey, are we gonna be back next Monday?
We'll be back next Monday. Next Monday we'll be previewing the college football playoff semifinals, or as the layman would be saying, Final Four. And then we will talk about the NFL playoff preview. That'll be pretty big. And we have a special show we want to talk about, but we have a lot of playoffs to talk about too, so we might not be able to fit that in. But we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it over drinks this Sunday.
Basically, we will be still doing the weekly Monday night happy hour till the Super Bowl for the most part.
Correct.
We got a really cool thing we're going to be doing at Super Bowl. We can't say anything till then. It's going to be so awesome. I cannot wait.
X-rated for sure. Yep.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of it's going to be lube and elbows. But yeah, so we're going to basically be. When's this? What's the?
I think it's February 9th.
Yeah, I think it's February 9th. So basically, for the next month and week, we will be every Monday. So about 4 more Mondays. And then we will transition into the every other happy hour where we'll just, that's more draft. And by the way, again, we'll talk a little bit more about this next Monday because that's the first show of the new year. But we're doing a lot more content for OutDrank The Coverage this year. We're going to have draft profiles. We're going to have TikTok and Facebook Reels moments. We're going to have different types of previews for the playoffs and the Super Bowl and stuff. So for everybody that's been watching us the last year, I did not know how this whole going to only live would work, but it's been absolutely awesome, and we appreciate it.
How many people will watch tonight?
We'll figure that out. Right now, we got 383 still watching, and we've just been randomly talking. I know at one point we had up to 8,000. So,
okay.
But yeah, we've got great numbers as always. And every week, I always tell you, I just want like a couple thousand because that's like if we get a couple thousand, we're fine. But we're getting more each and every week, so we do appreciate that. And until next time,
I am the champion.
I am the champion.